It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Yes, I'm back. Thank you, Micah Sargent, for filling in last week. Rene Ritchie's here. Andy Anako's here. So's Alex Lindsay. The whole team is in town. We're going to talk about the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. Rene interviewed some top Apple execs and has some insight. Jean-Louis Gasset has a plan for Apple. It doesn't involve cars. It doesn't involve 3D or augmented reality. What does it involve? And we'll take a look at some new features in iOS 15.2. It's all coming up next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 791, recorded Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. Boba Fett at the Met. This episode of Mac Break Weekly is brought to you by Molecule. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. For a limited time, save up to $120 on Molecule air purifiers by visiting molecule.com and using the promo code MacBreak120 at checkout. Enjoy free shipping and a 30-day home trial on your order. And by userway.org. Userway ensures your website is accessible, ADA compliant, and helps your business avoid accessibility-related lawsuits. The perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. It's not only the right thing to do, it's also the law. Go to userway.org/twit for 30% off Userway's AI-powered accessibility solution. And by Udacity. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. Visit udacity.com/twit and get 75% off any program with the code TWIT75. Limited time offer. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. Hello, everybody. I'm back. I'm sorry I missed you last week, but I hear the show was excellent in my stead. In fact, unfortunately, all the shows went better without me. So... Hey, Andy Anako. Good to see you. Congratulations on your coup at the opera.
I attended the opera in Boba Fett cosplay, and I was not thrown out even once. So that was I put that in the win column.
Let me show people what you looked like. You were smart because you played it cool. You weren't like wearing a metal helmet and adamantium armor. You were in a nice suit.
In my mind, I was. That's all that counts.
And how was Turandot?
Turandot was a palace of delight. Christine Gerke, as always, I was there to cosplay on Halloween weekend, but also this was like the second or third time I tried to see Christine Gerke, the soprano, dramatic soprano, sing, and boy was she amazing. So.
I told Andy his autobiography should be cosplaying at the Met.
There you go.
It's
don't bury the lead.
Also, Mr. Alex Lindsay is here from Office Hours.
My only question for Andy was he able to catch a solo? That's the only thing I need to know.
Oh, I get it.
There you go.
The solo shot first. I get it.
Yeah, there you go.
I get it.
I'm here all week.
Great to see you, Alex. Also,
good to be here. Aria.
Also joining us, Rene Ritchie. Rene Ritchie, youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Glad to have you back, Leo.
Have you been having much fun with your M1 MacBook Pros?
Leo, I got to talk for like an hour to the vice president of Apple Silicon. I'm going to be on a high for a month. Not coming down anytime soon.
Who's that? Is that Johnny Cerrugi or who is that?
No, he works for Johnny. Tim. You've seen him on the. I'm going to mispronounce his last name. You've seen him on the keynotes before. He was the one who introduced the A14 last year on the.
Nice.
In the Tim Millet. Millet, that's the right way.
And
to pronounce
did you
it.
get a lot of deets, a little inside information?
So I had him and Tom Boger. Tom Boger is vice president of iPad and Mac product marketing, but also he's a 27-year veteran. He's been working on the Mac for almost 3 decades. He loves it. I think it's one of his children, and it's great to hear but also like they talked about how they did a lot of it. For example, you get up to 64 gigabytes of RAM to keep the CPUs fed, but also 400 gigabits per second bandwidth to keep the GPUs fed. But since it's a unified architecture, the GPUs get that get that memory, which almost never happens on a notebook, and the CPUs get that bandwidth, which just never happens anywhere. And it resulted in sort of these removal of bottlenecks that are really interesting. And for me personally, they also, when you have rendering engines now off the main CPU cores, on my old Intel machine, if I pressed render, I could barely use a web browser. Now I press render, and it's like I have another Mac free to do everything else.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was really fascinating.
Oh, that's really sweet. Yeah, I was looking forward to testing those out, but ours got returned to Apple because FedEx couldn't figure out where we were. But I figured, hey, you know what? Everybody else has got theirs by now. I think we'll use their reviews, and Anthony can just keep using that old Intel i9 MacBook Pro 16 for a little bit longer. I think actually it's a blessing in disguise, because maybe it's worth waiting for the desktop versions, the M1 Minis. Yeah.
We heard some rumors about those too, where they're going to have 2-die versions, maybe in the iMac, and 4-die versions in the Mac Pros. If you imagine M1 Max times 4 with that sort of unified architecture behind it,
are they going to have
like 128 gigabytes of RAM?
What are they going to do? The Pro, the Max, the Pro Max, and the Pro Max?
No, I think it's going to be either Extreme or Quad and Dual. I think just going to call it M1 Max, like a Dual M1 Max and Quad M1 Max.
Yeah.
I think they should just use UBA.
Will I wonder, will they all be on the same die, or will they be
the same package, 4-die, 2 dies or 4 dies, and then the same package, which just means so much fabric, so much fabric.
And so it will be unified memory for both cores, or all cores, or how will?
I'm guessing you'll have one package of unified memory per die. And I'd love to see what they do here, because in the interview that I did, they explained how it was non-trivial to make an architecture that would support that much unified memory already on the M1 Max. So having to do that, but there is apparently a bunch of like IP switches and things already on these chips that show where the interlinks would go, which I think is also fascinating.
All you need is an electron microscope and some free time
and the will to use it.
And the will to use it. That's really exciting. I mean, I think there's a lot of headroom for the platform. The information said it's going to be difficult for Intel to catch up. They speculated, or maybe they got an inside story on their roadmap, but because of Apple's plans for its future Mac processors, these new chips are, according to the information, Wayne Ma writing, likely to easily outperform Intel's future processors. Alder Lake is out, or at least out enough so we've got benchmarks and stuff, and that's a very nice looking processor. I love, though, the people who say, Alder Lake is faster than the M1 Max on desktop. So,
well, it's faster than AMD as well. But like the biggest issue with Alder Lake is that Intel they wanted to beat AMD. That is the only thing they cared about. The entire specification sheet for Alder Lake said, please beat AMD for the benchmark LARP community. Like, as long as we can get the kids to post a few more points, that's all we care. And they did it at the power levels that they're pushing. Like, you can push voltage, you can push frequency, you can push voltage. 100. Just to give you a comparison, M1 Max is 30 watts with all the CPUs at maximum. Alder Lake starts at 100 watts on baseline, goes to 200 watts for max, goes to 330 watts for overclock. Just the CPU.
Is there, though, and I think this is important to ask, obviously in a laptop it matters, but is there a reason to worry about TPU on a desktop? I mean, throw all the power you want at it. What's wrong with
sometimes. So Dave 2T did a video where he got the chips from Intel. He was super happy to put them in his 1TX case, and he couldn't. Like he said, there was no physical way to cool those.
It's too hot.
In a mini tower case. He had to put in a water cooler just to use the i5 and the i7, the i9 version of those chips. So if you care about, well, environmentally the power, but whatever, like I'm not going to discount that. But if you like to say you have tons of power, that's not an issue. You can't get the casing that you want. You're limited to casings that have either massive thermal envelopes, or you're going to have to go through the process of water cooling or using alternative cooling methods, which is not trivial for mainstream, computing.
Okay.
The Alienware that he got, they sent him the Alienware with it pre-built, and it throttled immediately and hard. So even the consumer versions.
Yeah, I have a 5900 Ryzen in my Alienware, and it sounds like a jet engine taking off. Yeah. But I just put on headphones. I don't care if it's hot. Get as hot as you want. You're not getting
that performance, but that affects performance because you can't have both. You can't have peak performance in a thermally constrained environment, as anyone who owns an Intel Mac knows.
Even on a desktop, you're going to have that issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you find a way to cool it.
And
I mean, the other thing is that Apple, of course, with desktop machines can increase the power that they use as well, and potentially get more out of some of the future chips, or future desktops. So it's kind of like right now, Apple's like, I'm laughing because I'm really not left-handed.
yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
And you can be sure that they're not going to do a desktop with passive cooling again. They're going to try to eke as much performance out of this as possible.
I mean, I definitely think that when we get to the Mac Pro in a year and a half or so, they're going to want to make a point. Like, it's going to be screaming fast.
The information's leak says 3 nanometer process, so that also helps keeping it cool and getting more. Yeah, that's pretty small.
And that'll be A16 as well. And that'll benefit because the iPhone, the nice thing about these series that they're in lockstep with the iPhone, and Apple, because they use scalable architecture, whatever they put, the iPhone is a huge moneymaker. So they can afford to put a lot of R&D behind that they then get to use in their desktops, which is kind of super smart. And that's going to go down to 3 nanometers. It'll be ARM v9 almost assuredly. And they have to work within the constraints of an iPhone thermal envelope. So it will fly even in an iPad, in a MacBook Air's relatively beefy by comparison thermal envelope.
It is a compromise, though, to say we're going to put 4 die on a package, right? I mean,
that's what Xeon does. Well, Xeon doesn't do it in packages.
Well, and Intel had to do it. Intel had to do it. Yeah. They would have liked to have got faster than 5 gigahertz, but they couldn't. So they just upped the number of processors. There are disadvantages, I would imagine, though. Did you talk with Millet about that? And
they won't. They talked about it in terms of what they've done on the current SoC.
They're not
they
going
don't
to talk about future. Yeah.
No, but like you look at it, like you look at the code names, for example, of Jade, which is the M1. Then you have Jade Chop and Jade Die, which are the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. Then you have 2C and 4C, which just looks like it's an implementation of those. And again, non-trivial, but they've shown how they can scale it up to 4 pools of unified memory on this. And I don't think it's hard to imagine how they're going to build an infrastructure where they lower the latency and the overhead basically of those 4 dies talking to each other.
Yeah.
And still, all of those dies talking to each other is way faster than going out to the bus.
Yes.
Like to a traditional bus. And so that's the thing that they'll be able to keep on. Maybe not in the same level, but continuing to multiply what the power looks like.
Alex, you don't have any of the Maxes yet, or are you?
I don't.
Are you going to get them?
No, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see, because I will be so upset if I buy a laptop is not a form factor I need anymore. I mean, I have one and I need it when I need it to go, write some things or whatever. But the I have a bunch of Mac Minis. I've got and I'm more interested in like a new iMac than I am in a laptop at this point.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, Anthony, I'm not going to get you an iMac. I'll get you a Mini if it has the same capability.
Right.
Or a Mac Pro if we need to.
So I'd love to see a Mini.
You were going to have to wait till the end of the year, even if I ordered one a week ago, just because of the back orders. So we'll just wait till the desktops come out. That's probably at the latest June, possibly earlier. Yeah.
I think June would be the latest. I mean, if I was going to put money on it, I'd say March.
Let's do March. Yeah. So heck, 3 more months. We can get a
Mac
desktop.
Pro in June, because that's like traditional place. Like the 2013 and 2017 Mac Pros 2019 Mac Pros were WWDC. So maybe the iMacs and the Mac Minis.
Is there any?
The Mac Pros will be next fall.
Yeah, they may be farther out. Is there any concern you have, though, Alex, about the GPUs that they're including on these chips compared to a discrete GPU?
No, I just think it's not apples to apples anymore. I mean, it's a completely different architecture with different,
partly because you have so
envelopes.
much memory you can address now.
Yeah. So I think that you're going to have to see in real world. We have to see what is it like when I open this up, and what is it like when I open that up.
Right.
And that even doesn't really tell us anything until the code has been really optimized for the chips.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of things right now that are very early. It's very hard to make decisions related to this, but I think it's probably going to be a lot faster, especially the apps that are truly built for it. I think are going to really.
A year into the transition to Apple Silicon, it looks like there are very few apps left that are not transited. Are there some that you really need that have not?
Adobe is in progress still.
Adobe.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of 3D apps that aren't. Yeah. There's a lot of 3D apps that are not. all the way converted yet,
right?
And those are really hard. Those are really hard apps to do. Both Adobe and a lot of the 3D apps really have a hard time making this conversion because they had to write to Metal and they don't want to write to Metal. Right. They want to write to OpenGL. They want to do the things that they've been doing, and so that's going to take a long time for them to get to really move over and take full advantage. And the real opportunity is for the companies that get ahead is to really take a lot of ground. So like Maxon is probably way ahead of most of the companies around making that pivot because their code is much more efficient.
It hurt my heart a little bit when when Apple said you have to install Rosetta 2 for this app. I went, no, I don't want. No,
I know.
No,
it hurts
I
your
don't
battery
want to.
too.
And as it turned out, there was a beta version. It's the mail app I use, MailMate. There was a beta version that was native, but now that Rosetta 2 is installed, it still kind of pops up from now and now.
Well, you'll see it anyway because there are a bunch of stuff that you like. Discord is still an Intel app. Like there's just it's hard to get away from it still.
Yeah.
I got to see a demo of Octane that was made by Apple's Pro Workflow team, which has some of all of our favorite ILM and Pixar and other assorted Apple community nerds. And they built an entire Scout spaceship. It was all HDR. It was 4K and 8K footage. And they turned on everything. They turned on every bell and switch that they could. And they were manipulating in real time. The guy's like, we've just never had this much memory available to a portable GPU before. And he was like a kid in a candy store, which is amazing to see.
The M1 Pro I got because I got the base model because I wanted it in a hurry before I left for Mexico. And I did take it to Mexico with me. Put Capture One on it, which is M1 native. That really runs nicely. So does Affinity Pro and Darkroom and all the tools that I like. So I feel like it's pretty good. But it only had 512 gigs of storage because it was the base model.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm surviving. I thought I would suffer. But I'm just not putting a lot of video files on it.
The place that's hard is like where do because I keep my iPhotos library on an external drive. That's the one that really chews up a lot of space. And then also when you install Logic and it wants to put 100 gigs of
I mean,
sound
obviously it depends on your use case.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's where it starts.
I have big video files, and that really the other thing that was interesting from that interview is I got the 8 terabyte version, so now I'm doing a lot of that.
Okay, well, there you go.
And you notice the difference? The internal drive is so much faster. We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
It is lightning fast. Yeah, and I have NVMe external drives too, and I just don't. I'm just clumsy, so I knock them out all the time right when I need them the most. So it's just I'm saving me from myself. But they also talked about like ProRes because they took the ProRes Accelerator card, the Afterburner from the Mac Pro. It was made by the Apple Silicon team, and it was the best that they could do at the time to sort of accelerate ProRes because otherwise it just hits the CPU. But they found out now when they put it on die and it goes through unified memory, they're outperforming a 28-core Mac Pro with the package that's on the new M1 Max in a laptop because it has immediate access to all of those resources. And because it's no longer on the CPU, like I was saying, it's like you have two computers now. You have a computer that's doing your rendering, your transcoding, any of those big things, or your ML if you're using the neural engines instead. And then you have a whole like CPU, GPU Mac you could still use for other stuff at the same time, which to me is the biggest workflow change.
And it's not just something that is great for the MacBook Pro, but also great for ProRes, because it just becomes one of those things. Like if you're a reporter, or if you're a vlogger, or if you're anybody who has to turn video over quickly, this is the ultimate portable device to make that happen, and the ultimate format to do it. And so as you start looking at what cameras shoot ProRes and what and how do I do that, because it's going to save an enormous amount of time. Rendering is like the biggest problem that we have generally.
I also only got 16 gigs of RAM, and I did run at least once into that you're out of system memory thing.
Was it the bug though? Because
I think it might be a bug.
Monterey.
Yeah. So in
it's
fact,
like an app that shouldn't be doing it, like Mail.
Yeah, Michael Simon writing for Macworld, memory leaks are crippling my M1 MacBook Pro, and I'm not alone. I wouldn't say crippling. One of the first things I did is open Activity Monitor, and remember I only have 16 gigs. Noticed that the control center was using 3.2 gigs. So the first thing I did is kill Control Center. It went back down to a couple of 100 megs, and everything seems to have settled down now as a result. I was also using Firefox. I switched back, because that was using a lot of memory. I switched back to Safari.
Mail has been a culprit too. Some people, some of the After Effects betas have been terrible.
So memory leaks can be a big issue.
I noticed that it was
some of them, and there's more to be patched.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed that if I was using any pre-installs, extensions, anything on Rosetta, I was getting memory issues.
Rosetta,
and so,
yeah.
you know, and so that's for me, if everything on the computer and on the two computers that I have, it's now just about everything. One computer is pure. Like literally, I don't have Rosetta on it. I don't want to have, and then the other one has a couple things on it. But I found that the memory errors went down a lot when I wasn't using something that wasn't, you know, it's the native stuff was working, for me, is working fine. It's when you start adding the Rosetta stuff that you start seeing memory leaks.
RX9 is Rosetta for me, and like you can see the difference. I press the button on a ProRes encode. It's a 10-minute video. It takes like 4 minutes. It takes 1% battery life. But then I do the same thing with RX9, which is Intel, and I can hear the fans coming.
Have you checked your control center, Rene?
Yeah, I haven't had any. Knock wood. I hesitate saying it. I haven't had a single memory leak yet.
Once I force quit it's fine. It's been fine ever since. I keep now Activity Monitor open just to kind of keep an eye on things, and I haven't had any problems since. So I think it must just have been a bug in Control Center.
I know that even in Catalina, you know, there are some apps that if I push really, really hard, even after I close them, I have to restart the computer. Like I just like it's not nothing. It's not that I get errors. It's just that nothing runs right. Like it's something's hung up, and the only way to flush it is to restart it.
One other bug we experienced, which was just weird, and it may just be me. You know how, and I love this feature, Apple. I was trying to log on to the Wi-Fi at work, and so Apple notified every device, because I didn't have the password, share the password with Leo, and I said yes on all my devices. But for some reason, it kept doing that to Lisa for a few days. Like every few minutes, it'd pop up, you want to share your password with Leo. And until I rebooted, it continued. So but rebooting did fix it. And Lisa, tell me if you're still getting it, but I haven't heard from her in a couple of days about that anyway. So I think that's okay. So another, just, you know, you can expect some of these things, I guess. Memory leaks, you know, if they're in an Apple software, well, I expect them to go away very quickly. Yes. If they're in third-party software, that's another matter entirely. I don't know.
Also, Dropbox has said they'll finally update maybe next year. So I've been using Maestro instead of. I tried Google Drive, and I'm using Maestro now instead of the Dropbox client, which is.
But does it work with Dropbox? It's a third party. Okay.
Yeah, it's a third party. You put in the key, and it just it's very bare bones. There's a command line if you'd like it, Leo, but. For some things, Dropbox is just
I can
way
live with
faster
that. I can live without Dropbox, to be honest with you. So.
If Dropbox wasn't working, would you know?
I would.
I'm trying to get everything off. The hardest part with Dropbox is that once you have like terabytes of stuff on Dropbox, which I accumulated over years, getting it off the web is not trivial. You know,
it's
like
just the other people that use it that's hard too.
Oh my gosh.
But Micah sent me a share request or a file request, and I had to use it. But that's, you know, and then you just close it out. I just did it in the web. I didn't install the Dropbox software.
Oh, I definitely don't install. I haven't installed that for years. But I even in the web, trying to get it all off the web after that is a thing. You know, so it's I feel like I have to set up a whole computer just to like pair it up and then let it sit for 2 weeks and have it all pull it down and then turn it off because it's just
I'm trying to switch to Google Drive. See how it goes.
Oh, I don't. Well, I mean, I have to admit. So I do all my transfers with Frame. So Frame.io, like I just like it's so much faster than everything else. Like it saturates.
But can you do non-video on Frame? Because like I'm doing like a bunch of other stuff that.
I share everything.
Really?
I share. Yeah, it just says it can't preview the model, but I put up USDZ models and PDFs and you know anything. Okay, cool. It'll take anything that you want to put up there. It just will only play back the video.
I would much rather give money to the people who gave Emery money than give money to anybody.
Frame is just really, it's super, super easy to use and control and put into folders and pull down all those things.
Yeah, it's just really tough when you do. You really have to do an audit every once in a while to figure out exactly how much storage you're paying for across so many different services. I think the last time I tried to do that, I've realized that I have about 4 terabytes of storage I'm paying for across like 3 or 4 different services, including Adobe's cloud storage of photos for Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop. And I would love to consolidate that all into one. And the thing is, like, Dropbox does some things better than Google Drive, but I love like the pricing plan and the accessibility of Google Drive for all these other things that I'm doing, and it's hard to sort of quit them all because it's like you have 3 different kinds of really, really hot spices in your cupboard because sometimes you want the rooster paste, sometimes you want the chili powder, sometimes you want the habaneros, and you don't know which one you're going to need at any one given time.
You know what's surprising? None of you have mentioned iCloud. I'm sure iCloud's M1 ready.
No.
It's great if you're people keep telling me that. They get super mad at me for not talking about it, but it's great if you're a person or a family. It is not great if you're doing anything that involves like shared business stuff.
Any other persons in the world, because not everybody's a Mac user.
Like you can share a file, you can share a few things.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you think you're living large using Frame, and then you find out that Sony MCS exists. It is really Sony
that?
MCS is like
Is that the professional
media
version?
Control Center? Yeah, it is. So you can send invites from folders, like just upload to here, and so this is the big guns. I feel like. Frame is really comfortable, and it's probably less expensive. so I'm still using Frame, but I feel like when I grow up, I might try Sony MCS.
Frame.io is noted mostly, though, for its workflow in the cloud, right? I mean, does MCS
what
do
Frame?
that?
Yeah, it's got a lot of workflows. It doesn't have the same integrate. It doesn't. I don't know if it has the same all the same feedback things. I mean, I think that the big thing with Frame is I can upload things to clients. They can start putting in comments immediately into the videos, and that really sets it apart. And then I can. Those notes go back into Final Cut or Resolve or whatever you're using as markers. So when they put the notes in, you just go to the next marker and fix the problem. And you literally click on the marker. It opens up and says, I don't want that logo. And you're like, okay, I'll take that logo out. And then you're done. And then you can check it off saying I did it. And then it goes back to the web page and says he did that. He did that. And so you can, it's just the how it's tied into the entire ecosystem is amazing. Yeah. But you can also upload it any file. I use it for my general file transfer. That's just how I get things to people, because the other thing it does is it saturates your line. So when you upload something, just don't do it when someone else is trying to run a live show or something, because it just sucks the whole. Like if you have a gig, it's going to use all of it to get all the files up. So it's nice and fast, but it is a bully within your network.
Let's take a little break. When we come back, that's all the exciting news. Now there's just the rest of the news.
It's still good.
It's still good stuff. There's still lots to talk about. I just, we always like talking about toys. I guess we could talk about
the new shiny deal.
Monterey, because now that we've had it for a couple of weeks, we could talk a little bit about that. And iOS 15.1 is coming and stuff like that. Our show today brought to you by the fresh air in our studio. Let me tell you, after those fires, that's the one you all saw the pictures where the sun was blood red hanging over San Francisco. It was tough. Fortunately, even back then, we were using Molecule air purifiers, and we could breathe in here, not outside so much. We just upped our Molecules. I got the Air Pro. We got another one in the house, and we survived. We survived. Molecule is reinventing the notion, the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. It is not an air filter per se. It does have filtration, kind of a first stage. But really what Molecule does is much more sophisticated. It's called PICO, photoelectrochemical oxidation. So in the Molecule, which is a beautiful, by the way, machined aluminum cylinder, after the air goes through the filter at the bottom, the traditional filter at the bottom, it comes up through a catalytic converter, in effect, that traps pollutants, and really tiny ones too, viruses, bacteria, mold, even volatile organic compounds, things that come off your carpets and your drapes, traps them, and instead of just trapping them, it destroys them, which I love. We have the light off while we're sleeping, and when it comes on in the morning, I can just almost hear the little screams as the little bugs all die as the purifier just destroys them. Molecule air purifiers in the home and in the office and even in medical spaces, destroying pollutants, providing clean air. They're quiet, they're effective. Molecule's PICO technology meets the performance requirements in FDA's guidance for use in helping reduce the risk of exposure to SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 virus, in healthcare settings. You'll see Molecules in a lot of dental offices and medical offices. Of course, you still have to, I'm not saying you don't have to wash your hands and wear a mask and all that stuff, but this extra layer of virus protection is frankly quite reassuring. The Molecule Air Pro RX, which is the one you most often see in medical offices, is FDA approved, 510K Class 2 medical device for medical purposes to destroy bacteria and viruses in the air. FDA approved. But there are many molecules for whatever your needs. For a bedroom, say, the Molecule Air Mini for rooms up to 250 square feet. The Molecule Air, that's what we had for a long time. We have that in our bedroom now. Michael has it in his bedroom. We have had one in the studio for a long time. That's for rooms up to 600 square feet. Once they added the Molecule Air Pro, we got that for the studio. That's up to 1,000 square feet. There's also new, the Air Mini Plus has a particle sensor and auto protect mode, so it adjusts the fan speed based on the sensor. But you know it's quiet because it's here in our studio, and it's working. Actually, we have two of them working. Are they both plugged in, John, or did you? Yeah, they're both plugged in. Belt and suspenders, baby. And you don't hear it, but it's working, and I love that. If you're at all curious about the technology, go to the website, molecule, molekule.com, and read the white papers. It's worth reading. It's worth reading. You can actually see the test results right there. I am a Molecule fan. We use it here. We use it at home, and I highly recommend it for your home. For a limited time, save up to $120 on Molecule air purifiers. Go to molecule, molekule.com. Use the promo code MacBreak120 for up to $120 off on select air purifiers from Molecule. Free shipping, too, and a 30-day at-home trial, so there's absolutely no risk. You can try it for yourself. Let me know how it works. MacBreak120, Molecule, molekule.com. The air in your office, if you can't open windows, is probably much worse than the air outside, except when there's fires. Third anniversary of those fires. God. There were fires 2 years ago, too, but that was the one that destroyed Paradise. And 3 years ago, the coffee park burned and lots of Santa Rosa. You go back up there, people have rebuilt. The houses are back right there. But there's one area of Coffee Park where there's a tree, a blackened tree that they decided to leave, I guess as a memento of what a horrific week that was around here. On we go. Speaking of horrific weeks, Apple's suffering apparently a horrific week. Their iFixit reports, I'm very curious what you all think about this. I don't know if this is anything new, but they say Apple's new screen repair trap could change the repair industry forever. And I think this has happened before, but if you have an iPhone 13 and you replace the screen, it'll completely disable Face ID. It will no longer work. iFixit tested it with a variety of phones on iOS 15 and 15.1. They say our results have been replicated by numerous repair professionals. As I remember, when this has happened in the past, Apple has said security, but iFixit says it's hard to understand this as a security measure, given that the Face ID illuminator is entirely separate from the screen. They say it's the
It was a bug before, and they fixed it.
Now it's intentional. You think it's a bug?
No, I think they just said they gave a statement to The Verge of somebody saying they're rolling it back in the next update.
So it was a bug.
It's exactly what happened before. Either a bug or they keep attempting it and they keep getting in trouble for it and they keep pulling back.
Yeah.
One of those two things is true.
It's probably Big D in our Twit forums said that would be illegal in Europe. So I think once people find out about it, they're going to have to roll it back at least in Europe.
Their goal every time is to stop somebody from getting, like, not somebody, but a nation state or like a well-funded actor to get a hold of your device and swap the sensor to defeat the biometrics. But there's different ways of doing that. And they once before with Touch ID and now with this, it just broke if you try to do it. But there are much more sophisticated ways that they can do it. They fixed it back then. They just reversed it. So you had to have genuine Apple parts. Didn't matter if they were the same parts or not. It would just work. And it looks like they're doing the exact same fix here. So it's just less sensitive to what kind of parts you're swapping it for.
The EU has embraced right to repair. They actually require Apple to provide parts and tools to independent repairers for a minimum of 5 years of any given product. So I guess you could say, here's the part, but the Face ID won't work.
Which is not good. That's not a good experience.
No.
Yeah, and that's absolutely not a good look for Apple either. So this is the sort of thing that they really need to fix very, very quickly. I know that on other platforms, it's not so much that they're checking for codes on specific components, but that at boot up they do like a checksum that says what is the math, what is the answer to this math problem involving all the codes we're getting from all the components, and if they don't match from launch to launch, then that's when it says, okay, I've been tampered with, so I'm going to disable certain features that people are going to trust. So I could definitely believe that this was just a bug, but it's hard to believe that after getting caught in this sort of problem the first time, one of the things that they put through testing is not what happens if we take random display and swap it in, will it still boot? It seems as though that should be part of the pre-launch the pre-launch of device testing.
Apple authorized repair shops have access to a software tool that can make a phone accept a new screen. So you can, it basically, reminds me of the John Deere situation where you can make a repair on a John Deere tractor, but it won't work until the John Deere authorized software certifies it. They are also very much against right to repair.
Or the printer. Or the Nest Press. I've heard not about this problem, but I've heard from other very similar problems that at a certain point, like a go, no-go decision is made. Like, we know this is a problem. This is our shipping deadline. Is this sufficient that we should change the shipping deadline, or can we fix this afterwards? And somebody makes a decision, and often there are people who vehemently disagree with that decision, say, no, this has to be fixed first. And they don't always win those arguments, but they have those arguments every time.
And as you said, Apple has told The Verge it will release a software update that does not require you to jump through hoops. In other words, transfer the microcontroller using micro soldering techniques.
Incidentally, Rene raises a good point. It's also given that every time there's a new phone that comes out, there's always people who do the side by side comparisons of pictures. But the fine tuning the picture pipeline of what a picture looks like by the time it gets deposited into your picture roll, that is a classic example of the sort of thing. But we know that we know this isn't working exactly the way that we want it to. That we can make this work better, but there is no way that we're holding up the shipping of the phone because we don't think that the color is quite right on skies. We can easily fix that with a patch.
That's software
in your future. So that's why you don't really. That's why if someone is trying to get you to click on an article saying, "Oh, the new iPhone 13 is nowhere near as good as the iPhone 12 or this $300 Motorola phone," here we have the evidence. Wait until like a month passes before you really accept any conclusions about how well a certain camera phone works.
I'm starting to get very clear of the machine learning that's going into like the photos, in the sense that my live view is oftentimes half the clarity of what ends up on my roll. Like it's an amazing thing. Like, you're taking a picture of something that looks kind of soft and doesn't look like it's going to work. You hit the button, and then it pops up, and you're like, wow, it's a lot sharper than what I just saw. And especially things like the depth of field, inside of the portrait mode looks horrible. I mean, it looks like the way it always has been, I guess. So I would say horrible.
I'll give you an example.
It always has been. This live, but then you take the picture, and then suddenly it fixes it. It fixes it by the time it hits the roll, and you're like, wow, that was a lot better than I expected.
One of the things before I left, I wanted to take down in Mexico is the Pixel Pro 6. 6 Pro, and Jason kindly lent me his. I did get mine eventually. But here's an example. This is a raw image from a graveyard, because it was the Day of the Dead, so we spent some time in graveyards. On the Pixel, this is the Pixel Pro 6. Pixel 6 Pro. I'll be very curious to see what Andy and Rene get. But this is the after processing image, and it really is pretty amazing, the night vision, as long as nobody's moving. In a graveyard, that's a pretty safe bet. So
hopefully you got bigger problems.
I mean, you are in Mexico.
It's funny because like Apple used to be religious about what you see is what you get. We're not going to do anything if we can't do it real time, but that prevented them from doing things like night mode, which became a huge competitive disadvantage. So now they're sucking it up, but it means that you do see, like with like the fusion methods and the night mode methods and the image stacking, you do see that little delay. And the funniest thing to me is that Apple and Google, like Apple is usually incredibly opinionated and controlling, and Google's usually very granola, crunchy, hippie, but their photo teams are the reverse. Apple's photo team is like, we're going to give you this capabilities, but you get to pick how it all works out. And Google's team is like, we're going to reduce everything to base bits, and then we're going to give you a Google Pixel image that's going to look like the best damn Google Pixel image you're ever going to get for every photo. And it's like, but that's the reverse of your usual approaches.
I'm going to try to get Lisa to send. She took the 13, so I want to see how the pictures of the graveyard came out on the 13. But my problem with the
They're all
Pixel,
good now.
I'll be very curious. They're all good now. I'd be very curious though what you guys, when you spend some time. Andy, have you had some time yet with the Pixel 6 Pro?
Yeah, I've been taking a lot of pictures with it over the past week, and I've been very, very pleased with it so far. Particularly when you match it up with Adobe Lightroom for mobile, that it'll take great pictures in and of itself. I haven't caught it doing anything that I don't like. It does. There's
a lot of processing. If you zoom in, you can see it.
I was about to say with this very first version of the firmware, it overcooks things a little bit. Not so much that it's bad, but as much that if you are looking for a more softer, more natural look, you might want to have to twiddle a few things twiddle a few sliders to fix it. However, in terms of taking that one button press and getting a really good picture, or if you're me, taking that one button press, getting a really good picture, and then wanting to mess around with it in Lightroom to make it look exactly the way you want to. There is so much latitude there. I took a picture of the crescent moon last night. Just out through my window. I was like, okay, that's really, really cool. And I was able to use like the adjustable black point and white point controls while I was doing the capture to get the exposure the way I wanted to. And it wasn't until I was like zooming way in later on that I realized that son of a bee. If you zoomed way in on the crescent, it was actually getting so much light data with that correct light setting that I could actually see like the shady side of the moon upside the crescent. So it wasn't as though all those white pixels blew out everything around it. There was a little bit of halo around it that you would expect, but you see the complete circle of the complete moon underneath there, and that's when I was reminded that the capabilities of even $1,000 phone have gone, even accepting that's $1,000 phone, have really gone up in the past 3 or 4 or 5 years.
I still think the iPhone, even the iPhone 12 is superior for video. I think the video I was getting on the iPhone 12 was stunning. And I'm sure the 13 is even better.
Google's always playing catch up with video.
Yeah.
They just got into HDR for video there. The good news is that it is high frame rate 4K, and I left it running for like 15-20 minutes and wasn't overheating, it wasn't shutting down or anything like that. So I'm not sure if it's good enough for people who actually want to shoot video for
Probably
YouTube
is.
or stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, for people like me for whom video is not a profession, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely people who know what they're talking about have been saying that, you still want to get, if you're doing video, you definitely want an iPhone.
Actually, that was one big takeaway for me was I'm still very happy with the 12. And I don't, both photos and video, and I don't really notice, at least at the 13, I'm happy with the 12. I don't think I don't feel any sense of
love the
I
macro.
missed out.
It's just battery life.
Macro
is really the thing.
Yeah. Battery life too. Yeah.
Well, I'm battery life. Yeah.
I'm upgrading from a Pixel 4a that cost $350 last year. So this is my first flagship phone in like 3 or 4 years. So this is the schedule that I think you should be on. I was pleased. I haven't been to the public garden yet to do the official squirrel photos, but I was at a nature preserve a few days ago, just taking a walk, and I managed to catch one in the wild. They're they're not as patient. They don't simply say, "Oh, if you have sunflower seeds, I will pose for you for 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I'll pose for you right on your shoulder if you've got the bag like held up high." And in the wild, the fact that I was able to have that 4x zoom going really fast and just whip it up and get an actually decent picture, that pleased me a lot.
The zoom's very good on the Pixel 6. I have to say the zoom is really good.
He's making
that's because it's not just the optical. It also does something really clever where as you're zooming, it basically steals information about what's in between pixels as you're doing the zoom. Like as you're moving the camera around unconsciously, just by virtue of the fact that you're a human being who has caffeine every now and then, it can actually use that data to interpolate a little bit. That's why it's so hard to feel like these days you're doing like a real apples to apples comparison between two phones. Like you said, I think that all phones at the same sort of flagship level perform almost exactly the same. Some will outperform the others if you do a certain side by side, but you can't really predict which it's going to be, and it really comes down to do you want to? It really comes down to everything else that's involved in this phone. I'm comfortable in saying that the the Pixel 6 is as good as a top tier iPhone, but that doesn't mean that every photo it takes is going to be as to your liking as the same picture taken with an iPhone 13 or vice versa.
I don't want to make Anthony feel bad. But Twitter is giving all active iOS engineers iOS and Android engineers maxed out MacBook Pro Maxes. So is Uber. So I'm sorry, Anthony. You don't work for Uber or Twitter. That's all I can say.
They were saying the build time savings.
I was going to give you one.
Like a year.
Blame FedEx.
Yeah.
It's like an insane stat.
But upgrades in general are easy math when someone is using a lot of computing power. So when there's a lot of computing power on someone, that math is generally a really simple one to get someone the fastest computer that you can get them.
Yeah. If you bill out how much it costs for that engineer to sit watching the software compile, it doesn't take much more than a week or two before the faster machine pays for itself. So it's worth it.
Yeah. Too many benchmarks are based on GPU output, based on gaming frame rate, based on how quickly it can compile a video project. But really, the one of the real compute for dough setups is always going to be building code, and that's the easy choice. That do you want to build this in 20 minutes? Do you want to build this in 2 minutes? Easy.
I bookmarked this on Halloween. I don't know if you talked about it last week. Jean-Louis Gasset, I always read his Monday Note, former Apple president. He was head of Apple Europe for a while, then did BOS, and I still think he's a pretty astute Apple observer. Did some interesting kind of thought experiments on what will Apple look like in 10 years. He starts with kind of some misdirection, saying, who will be Tim Cook's successor? He actually likes Jeff Williams, even though Jeff's only a few years, 2 years younger than Cook, but
like 2 feet taller.
He is taller, and that's really matters. But no,
yes.
The reason he likes Jeff Williams is interesting because he says, can the next 10 years for Apple bring the same growth? We know trees don't grow to the sky, but what market would Apple grow in? He says, we'll dismiss cars right away, even though Apple continues to hire Tesla engineers and spend lots of money on cars. He says, to be sure, a few million Apple cars at $50K would make the auto industry a mother lode for Apple, as it has for Tesla. But I don't think it'll happen.
It's automation.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole bunch of automation products.
He says Apple's a high margin company. The car business yields low margins. He says autopilot.
Yeah, but the problem with that argument is the phone business is a low margin.
Well, that's true. You can transform it. They transformed it. That's right. Yep.
You don't have to. You just got to play a different game.
Autopilot technology, he said, is kind of stuck at level 2 without much hope of getting level 5 in the foreseeable future. That's been a little bit of a disappointment to a lot of people, including
I think one of the
Tesla
problems
owners.
with that is that people are. I mean, highways are very doable. It's the side roads that are problematic.
Yeah.
And most of us, what we would love to do is be able to get on the highway and then not have to think about this for a while.
Well, you could almost do that already. I mean, honestly, most
you can do it already.
Most of the ADAS, the assist,
you're not supposed to.
does it. Well, you keep your hands on the wheel. My Ford Mach-E, I keep my hands on the wheel, but it's doing adaptive cruise control. It's checking lanes.
Right.
It's keeping in the lane. It's doing mostly what you want to do in a highway situation for sure. And my Tesla did the same. He says augmented reality. Hold on. Is often cited as having the potential to change the tech industry. It's more realistic than cars. And while Facebook is pushing the metaverse, he says AR has don't yell at him, no broad use case that Apple could seize upon to launch a new wave of growth. Yeah, it might be wrong. I do agree. I may not agree completely with those points, but I do agree with what he finally comes down to, which is healthcare. He says Apple, if you're looking for an industry where there is lots of room to grow and a lot of money to make, even in non-invasive blood glucose monitoring, we're talking perhaps $1 trillion business.
And Tim Cook said that out loud, right? He said Apple's going to be best known for their health initiatives.
Yeah. It fits in kind of with what Apple has. Apple's kind of heart. And also, and I say comes full circle by saying, by the way, the senior Apple executive who drives the company's health initiatives is Jeff Williams. So that would make sense. Lisa has some. Do you have any graveyard pictures from your iPhone 13? You sent them to me?
I just
slacked them to me? Okay. Because see, those are pretty good. Those are pretty good. This is an altar. These are edited?
No, not edited.
Not edited. Oh, all right. She hasn't had a chance to edit them yet. Hold on. Let me show you one more. This is a very similar one to the one I showed you. The color's different. In some ways, I kind of like the iPhone 13 color.
They made a conscious decision to not make nighttime look like daylight. They wanted to keep the ambiance of nighttime and just let you see more in it, to not try to make it look like the sun had come up.
Yeah. And on the Google one, it was almost like, wow, it's so bright.
They want to make it look like daytime. Yeah. Different approach.
More aesthetic judgment than a technical one, I think.
Yeah.
It's all aesthetics now. It's all the opinion of the camera teams. That's all we're getting these days. The technology is all good. It's just the opinions of the camera team.
These are quite. Here's another one. This is, I think, a really good example of. Remember, this is almost completely dark except for the candlelight. There was one light, I think, that's casting some light on this one, but pretty nice. I think the iPhone and the Pixel 6 did very well in the graveyard. Just in case you need any graveyard shoots in your future. Yeah.
The other complication always is that you can, a connoisseur would say, "Oh man, all you did was like add like hot sauce and salt and butter to this."
Yes.
But I like hot sauce and butter and salt, and this is my photo, not yours. I don't. This is I'm posting this. To
it does become a personal choice, doesn't it? So, yeah. Here's I guess actually we can do almost a head-to-head. Here's the Pixel 6. And here is the iPhone. And I think that really does sum it up a little bit. The Pixel 6 looks more processed to me. This looked actually more like what it really looked like. So there is some light here on this one from these street lights in the background. Anyway, I didn't mean to jump back there, but at least
everyone gets a great photo. This is what
everyone gets a great photo. That's really the bottom line. Absolutely. All right. So health, John Louis say maybe Apple could do cars and could do AR and could do health. Who knows? Do they have to pick one?
I don't know. I think
all
that
the same
the big
computer vision.
Yeah.
I think that with all three of them, what we're seeing Apple do is very, very slow and massive rollouts. So health is being slowly added into our watches, and the process is this giant move. With cars, whatever Apple's going to do with cars, they have a team working on it. So they're doing something, and it's just like this big kind of slow move. And the same thing with AR. AR they've been building up for the last 5 years. So there's talking about it when they need to. I think most of the time when Tim Cook's talking about it a lot, it's because they're trying to make deals with the people that quietly make deals with folks and say, yeah, this is important to us. See what Tim just said?
That's
I
interesting. That makes sense. Yeah. Because he was saying AR a lot the last few years, right?
When they were trying, my guess is that they're trying to, not acquire AR companies, but try to get companies to adopt. It takes a long time to build the pipeline this is what Facebook isn't doing very well. It's what Google really painfully failed. Because they were way ahead. Like I worked with those phones, we were shipping those phones, shipping those phones in from China because they wouldn't put them on their own phones with LiDAR and everything else. And so it was, Google was way ahead. They just didn't build the acquisition tools, and so what Apple's doing with reality converter and creator, and with object capture, and with slowly rolling USDZ out, you're building an entire ecosystem before you roll AR out, and that's I think that's why they're adding AR to every little bit of things to keep on seeding the ideas. So I think that it's probably still a little ways out, but it's going to be bigger than the phone if they do it right.
It's still speculative. I do think that AR is in the same category as level 5, maybe even level 4 autonomous driving. It'll almost certainly happen. It'll certainly happen within our lifetimes. Beyond that, I'm not willing to speculate because there are just so many roadblocks that have to be solved, and not all of them can be solved with engineering and technology. A lot of it is going to be cultural, and a lot of it is going to have to be wait and see what people want and try to steer them to a place where they can want something better.
Well, a lot of these things are just out of your reach anyway. I mean, non-invasive glucose monitoring has been promised and not delivered for years, and if you could get that, there's a massive market type.
Apple keeps buying companies that keep saying they're a year away, and Apple's like, we're a year away, you're a year away, we keep buying you, you're always a year away.
We've named 3 things that we're this close to reaching. We can't quite.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of technologies that are a engineering example of Zeno's paradox, where you can get halfway towards the finish line 1,000,000 times, but as always, the remaining distance, even if when it becomes half a millimeter, that is the most difficult half a millimeter you will ever have to travel. And Rene also pointed out something that is also going to be a challenge not only for Apple but for everybody else. A lot of tech companies in a lot of different esoteric markets, they are actually very, very thrilled to be bought out by Google. They're very, very thrilled to become part of Apple, to get the sort of resources where they don't have to productize this technology. They have to simply integrate it, and they have people who can pump so much money into their research so they can actually get it going. But the question is, will the U.S. allow large companies to buy these small companies as easily in the future as they have in the past? Because I do agree with the supposition that health, far beyond what Apple's doing right now, is such a huge opportunity for them, and it's such a great. They're in such a great position to really take advantage of it.
They may get health for free with the watch. It's just a matter of.
Well, I'm thinking about. Imagine Theranos, but it works.
Yeah.
Like imagine. I'm not talking about like
not criminal,
not a blood drop, but I'm talking about what if they made it a priority saying there must be a way that we can put diagnostic tools in the hands of make
it's
diagnostic tools that cost thousands of dollars. And,
the tricorder.
Tricorder. Yeah. I mean, the watch could end up being a tricorder. When, we don't know. The cars could drive themselves. When? Soon. But we don't know.
I was talking to someone who's working on a technology that I don't think is secret. I mean, they didn't have me say to be secret. That you can take your iPhone and actually point it at your eye, and it will calculate your prescription.
Right.
Like literally, it'll look in and look out, and it'll go, this is your prescription.
I saw a demo of that at the Media Lab like 10 years ago, even more than that.
Right.
And they were trying to deploy it to places where they just don't have eye doctors who can do tests like that. But because smartphones are ubiquitous, they can say, well, here is an app that we will prescribe to you. We will give you access to through our health network, and just tell us, and just push this button, and you will have your glasses in like 2 weeks' time, and you won't you won't have to pay that much money for it.
It would be, if you are a $1.5 trillion company with a couple of $100 billion to spend, prudent to work on all 3 areas. Any breakthrough in any one of those could be another $1 billion business or $10 billion business.
Yeah. The interesting thing for Apple, though, I think, is like they are doing both. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, in that they keep deploying these interim versions. Like we've been seeing interim AR on the iPhone for a while. We've been seeing interim health on the Apple Watch for a while. And if you take just VR, for example, it's going to take a while to get to mainstream VR. But every rumor suggests that next year or the year after, we're going to get a $3,000 Apple headset with 8K per eye displays, with a custom Apple M3 generation processor to drive it all as fast as a supercomputer, well, not super, but like a beefy tower computer drives VR today. And it'll have all the Apple TV programming that they've spent the last couple of years. People asking, why are they doing that? They'll have Fitness Plus and Apple Entertainment and Apple Gaming and all of this built into it. And it'll be expensive, and it'll be bound to other Apple hardware, the way the first Apple Watch was $700 and bound to iTunes. But then 2, 3, 4 years after that, we'll get closer and closer to the glasses. So I think they're smart in that they try to pay technology off with interim steps along the pipeline.
And if you look at something like with the AR, it's an ecosystem that they're building. And so a lot of, we're seeing, why would they put 360 and the ability to manipulate 3D models inside of Motion and Final Cut? I don't know, maybe because those are the authoring packages for what you need to do, that you have control over. You don't have to ask someone to do those things, and so those are the kind of things that they can do. And as that ecosystem gets richer, and I think
make the case. I can see how you could make a ton of money from just non-invasive glucose monitoring. But health, if you got even more, you could see you can make a ton of money. I could see how you can make it maybe a little bit less, but a ton of money from making really good self-driving cars. Make a case for why AR could be that lucrative, Alex.
Mark Zuckerberg just did it, Leo. You saw the Meta video.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not going to call. I don't know who I can say and who I can, but a friend of mine, was building some USDZ models and showed them to his sales staff, and they put it on their iPad and showed it to the first client. And the first client got so excited, they were like, okay, we have to build everything else that the company makes in 3D, in USDZ, because we have to be able to see all these and be able to show it to them. And so the thing is that, right now we're in this kind of early stage where everything is hard because it's hard to develop those things. But when you see USDZ working, you go, I can now put this on I can put something on my desk and see if that's going to fit, if it's going to look good. I can put furniture in my, those kinds of things. And right now it's very nascent technology. I mean, right now it's barely working. There's little examples of it, and I think Apple's keeping a lot of powder dry because they're not interested in getting everybody else excited about it either. Right. So there's a bunch of us out there just going, until they turn the switch on. Now, the thing is that I've gotten so used to it because I'm now building USDZ models for everything. And everything that I want to do, and what I do is I was doing a presentation for a client last week, and what I did is I put all the objects that I want to talk about in USDZ. I'm in Motion, rendering out those files, but just changing the camera angle. Oh, I really want to show what their product from over here, and so I just rotate it around and hit render and put it into Keynote. Now, eventually, I'm not going to have to hit render and put it into Keynote. I'm just going to have a 3D object in Keynote, rotate it around, and drop it. Or while I'm in the presentation, rotate it around while I'm showing it to them. Or eventually, tap on it and it shows up on their phone, and they can look at it, in front of themselves. And so, but like for instance, just generating the geometry is a huge lift. If it was just available inside of Pages and Keynote, it would create a gold rush, for building 3D models, because suddenly you're able to now rotate those objects. If I have to do tons and tons of explainer things to clients about how things are going to work. And the idea that I don't have to have a 3D artist, I can just drop it into Keynote, rotate it, and drop it, down, or in Motion. I just did the whole set of animations in Motion with 3D objects. And eventually all of that's going to be something that you can pick up with your phone, and I think that, eventually maybe there's wearables, but even before that, there's a huge ecosystem to build all that geometry and all of those things that it's available right now. I think that it will take the hard part is that what Google never got was critical mass. So they didn't have critical mass of developers. They didn't have critical mass of consumers. Now Apple is slowly rolling LiDAR out to everything, and so, it's in the higher end right now. There's going to be some point where LiDAR is just part of every phone that's shipped. And now you have hundreds of millions of consumers ready to use something that you can roll into, and so the glasses are not that important compared to the fact that you can, really get the data, locked down. And really be able to see some amazing experiences. And so it's just getting started. And again, I think Apple is trying to promote it enough to get developers, but not promoted enough to get consumers yet. So I think that they're keeping that powder really dry.
If I could expand on that a little bit, it's not hard to imagine, extrapolate a few years out, where whatever device you have, all it does is handle local authentication and cloud connection to whatever storage you happen to have. And then everything else is handled. It's sort of that dream of multiple endpoints. Everything else is handled by an AR interface, what Apple's calling STAR at the moment. But when you build all these things that Alex is talking about, the ability to understand the environment, that's usable for automation, not just cars, but robots and all sorts of things that are going to get productized over the next 10 years. But also you need that for any of these interfaces that are coming. It has to understand your environment, and then it starts layering those interfaces in front of you. And it doesn't matter if you have a phone or a tablet. It all becomes like opportunistic. You sit down at a desk and it gives you your environment. That's, you see that through your glasses one day, and you don't have to worry about, do I have the latest phone? Do I have the latest tablet? You just have that whole ecosystem nicely filled by all of the USDZ files flying around that you don't even notice anymore. That's just part of the relay system and the subscriptions that you're paying for absolutely everything. But it becomes sort of device agnostic at that point. I think that's the future Apple's shooting towards. It's just going to take multiple steps and multiple years to get there.
And it'll take an enormous amount of investment from Apple. This is where hopefully they learned from iBooks, is that you have to put real money into content development. They're not going to be able to just put this out there. This is what Google was like, okay, we'll put it out there and see what you guys do with it. Nobody did anything. I did something. I was by myself. So anyway, but I think that, Apple, if they put the money into it to develop it, it'll go a long way.
I think if I were going to put my money, I'd put it on medical in terms of just raw potential. But there's a lot of headwinds if you're going to do medical. But you have to get insurance companies and Medicare and FDA, and it's just complicated. In fact, Apple's already seen that with the Apple Watch. Cars also very complicated because I think the future of private ownership of vehicles even is in doubt. So this is a changing industry.
The Apple fleet.
It's a complicated and changing industry. Plus, Apple doesn't have much existing infrastructure in that industry, or any, to be honest. So I think, even though I'm less excited about AR and what you can do with it, Apple's already there. They've already been building this. They already have the people. And there's nobody to say, no, you can't do that. There's no government agency yet. But I think that it's going to be a lot easier for Apple to penetrate that market. So I think there's more money probably in healthcare than any of the above. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy to pluck that.
Aging population.
That's absolutely right. There's also another category we haven't talked about, which is finance. That if you want,
that's also easy for Apple if they can just get into it. Yeah.
If they really were to light a fire underneath what they're doing with Apple Pay and the Apple Card, and they decided that we have a lot of there are a lot of problems with investing, with cash, with moving money from one country to another. Like if part of your family is across a border, there are a lot of problems that we're in a very good position to solve. And parenthetically, to shareholders, I say it's really, really good if people give us their money and we just hold on to it for a while until they tell us what they want to do with it. Yeah. So that's another opportunity for them.
There's a few people made money on PayPal, right? I think there's a few people who came out of PayPal.
And one of them owns his own Starfleet. Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's a possibility too. Yeah.
I mean, Apple is like two inches away from being a bank.
Right.
Like they were like.
I think it's Zeno's paradox all over again. It's those last 2 inches.
It is. But if they pulled it out, I mean, between Apple Cash and the Apple credit card, and then all the things you buy, you get to a point where you're just buying stuff from Apple with the card that Apple gave you. That, the thing is pretty efficient. Is
Microsoft still worth more than Apple now? I briefly last week.
I think they're still number one. I think that in terms of valuation, Apple is still underneath Microsoft by one click. Maybe
they're not subject to vague tweets from to tweet polls from their CEO as much as other companies are.
Who would have thought that? I mean, that 20 years ago, Microsoft was. I remember Dvorak always saying, "Well, whose wallet would you want, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs?" But that completely flipped.
Turns out Bezos and Musk, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's the thing that we keep forgetting. It's like inside of Microsoft, they're saying, you know what? You can have all of the columnists, all the commentators saying how innovative Apple is. You can say about how Elon Musk is redefining an entire category of transportation. Will be the gears that power every single business that needs to build cars and that needs to build everything else. It's a good place to be if you're interested in making money. It's not sexy. It's not proud. We still can't make a folding phone worth a damn. But hey, we got enough cash that we can float the Surface, the Android Surface tablet for a while.
Microsoft's market cap is $2.53 trillion compared to Apple's $2.468 trillion as of this recording. So Microsoft is.
Leo, we live in a world where Tim Cook is worth like $1.2 billion and Kendall Jenner is worth $45 billion.
I know.
And none of this means anything anymore.
Even Paris Hilton's worth more than Tim Cook, and that's really a shame.
He's getting into NFTs. My God, I need to get into NFTs.
Who's gonna become richer? Which technology is going to happen sooner? A tricorder in your watch or asteroid harvesting?
Well, asteroid harvesting has logistical issues.
Well, yeah. So does this.
Oh, we crushed Cleveland. We thought we were going to park the asteroid in Colorado, but we accidentally crushed Cleveland.
You don't bring it back. You just bring the raw materials back. You leave the asteroid.
Bring the Browns back to Cleveland, not asteroids.
There you go.
It's too late. It's too late. Someone else moved in. There's already someone in the house.
Did you watch the?
Just move back into the house.
I know sport ball is probably even worse than talking about Google on this show. But did you watch the Steelers game last night? That was pretty exciting.
It was crazy.
It was crazy.
It's exciting when you're not a Steeler fan. For a Steeler fan, we call it Sunday. Like it's like every Steeler game is like this. We're losing in the last 2 minutes. I just wish the Steelers would just blow somebody out just once, just once. Like because even when I had a friend that was working on one of the games and he was like, "Oh, you guys are doing pretty well." You know, like it was like 21 to something or other, and this was. another game a couple weeks ago, and I said, yeah, it's the Steelers. You watch. End of the game. It's like right down to the razor.
Crazy game.
It was a crazy game.
Say, for somebody without a dog in either hunt, I enjoyed it. It was fun to watch. I was thinking about you though the whole time.
I just wish the graphics team on Monday Night Football would look at the graphics on Sunday Night Football and mind the gap between the two, because Sunday Night Football, the graphics are so. I watch Sunday Night Football for the graphics. Like it's really, really well done. And Monday Night Football, not so much. It's like kind of college plus.
Let's take a little break. We'll come back with more. You got to go back to the telestrating what's wrong with this production, Alex. This would be.
I do.
Yeah, you could do it on office hours. Make it part of roll it into your office hours. Alex Lindsay, officehours.global, if you want to know more about that, from WGBH Boston and places east. Andy Ihnatko, Ihnatko.com, also known as the Boba Fett of the opera.
Boba Met.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Rene Ritchie, got to watch his latest video. That it was really good with the two Apple silicon engineers. Fascinating. Rene Ritchie is at youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. Our show today brought to you by userway.org. My heart is with this company because they're doing something so important. I remember when, we've had websites forever. Websites, you may or may not know, are considered by all and sundry public entities. And as a result, you are bound by the rules of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. That's why your website has to be accessible. Now, when I found that out, I thought, oh, this is going to be painful. This is going to be tough. Then I found UserWay. Not only easy, one line of JavaScript, but very affordable. UserWay is an incredible AI-powered solution that tirelessly enforces the hundreds of WCAG guidelines created by the World Wide Web Consortium. With just one line of JavaScript, UserWay can achieve more than an entire team of developers. It's not just the law, it's the right thing to do. 60 million users are out there who want to use your site, but if it's not accessible, they can't. The way browsers work, I actually was talking to the UserWay folks, I had to understand this, is that when you're using a browser and you're cited and you're looking at it, you're seeing that kind of front rendering of a page. But every browser creates an accessibility layer as well for screen readers and people with disabilities. It's really important that your website support that accessibility layer. That's why more than 1 million websites use UserWay's AI and machine learning solutions to power their accessibility. I'm talking Coca-Cola. I'm talking Disney, eBay, FedEx, many leading brands. UserWay is now making their best-in-class enterprise-level accessibility tools available to small and medium-sized businesses as well. And of course, the nice thing is, you may be small today, but if you get big, don't worry. UserWay can scale with you. If it works for Disney, it's got to work for you, right? It just makes business sense to have an accessible, compliant website. The Achilles heel for websites: registration forms, often just impenetrable to screen readers, nav menus, shopping carts that aren't accessible. Why would you make it impossible for anybody not to buy something on your site? But millions of users require UserWay to purchase your products. UserWay's AI actually generates image alt tags, writes the descriptions for you, but it also gives you access. You get a complete report of everything UserWay's done. It's easy for you, even interactively, to change the alt tags or to add to the alt tags. It'll remediate complex nav menus. All your pop-ups will be accessible. It'll fix vague link violations, any broken links. It even makes sure you're using web accessible colors, which is actually fairly important. But it's still true to your brand. Your brand's colors are preserved. They just change the luminance and the saturation to make them more accessible. You'll also get a detailed report of all the violations that were fixed on your site. Check out their free scanning tool. Go to userway.org/twit. See if your site's ADA compliant. It works with everything: WordPress, Shopify, Wix. It's very easy to add, very cost effective. Same goes for AEM, for Sitecore, for SharePoint. Just a single line of JavaScript code and you're good to go. All you have to do is ask the voice of Siri, considered the world's most popular voice assistant.
UserWay is trusted by more than 1 million websites and 60 million users with disabilities. Visit userway.org to learn how one line of code can make your website accessible.
She's got the excellent point. 60 million users. Why would you turn them away? UserWay can make any website fully accessible and ADA compliant. With UserWay, everyone who visits your site can browse seamlessly. They can customize it to fit your needs. It's also a perfect way to showcase your commitment to millions of people with disabilities. Go to userway.org/twit. Right now, 30% off if you use that address. UserWay's AI-powered accessibility solution. UserWay, making the internet accessible for everyone. UserWay, userway.org/twit. It's the right thing to do. Userway.org/twit. Thank you, UserWay, for supporting Mac Break Weekly. The battle is on between Apple and courts, Congress, the Department of Justice, and the EU. South Korea, everybody. South Korea has already said Apple has to open their iPhones to third-party marketplaces.
Well, did you see how Google addressed that? Exactly the way everyone thought Apple would, but Google managed to do it first.
What did Google say?
They said, yeah, you can use alternate payments. You just got to, here's the address to send us your share of the revenue.
Yeah, well, which Apple said they would do as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Craig Federighi speaking at a web conference, Web Summit 2021 in Lisbon last week. I love his slide here. Sideloading is a cyber criminal's best friend. I think this might be a little ramped up rhetoric. Sideloading, Craig said, is a cyber criminal's best friend, and requiring that on the iPhone would be a gold rush for the malware industry. That one provision in the DMA, that's the proposed European Commission's proposed Digital Markets Act. That one provision in the DMA could force every iPhone user, get ready, folks, into a landscape of professional con artists constantly trying to fool them. Oh, come on, Craig.
I would say that iOS 0 days are the scammer's best friend, but you know what do I know?
Well, yeah. Well, those are expensive.
The rich scammer. This would democratize it, Andy.
This democratizes
having access to the same sort of attack surface as the nation states. That's just not fair.
Tim Cook, talking at the Dealbook Summit from the New York Times Dealbook Summit, said, quote, "I think that people have that choice today. Andrew, if you want a sideload, you can buy an Android phone." He's okay.
Done.
Okay.
Did.
Got it right here, did. That choice exists when you go to the carrier shop. If it's important to you, you should buy an Android phone. From our point of view, it would be like if I were an automobile manufacturer telling a customer not to put airbags and seatbelts in the car. He would never think. Now, wait a minute. No iPhone has ever killed anybody, as far as I know, whether it's got sideloading or not. He would,
even when you drop it on your head in bed, like, it doesn't kill you. It just makes you wish you were dead for a second. But
this is actually, you could make this case with jailbreaking, right? But this is actually even more ramped up than anything Apple said about jailbreaking. He said, "I would never think about doing this in today's time. It's just too risky to do that. It would not be an iPhone if it didn't maximize security and privacy." Is this true? Is this a little overheated?
I don't disagree with the argument that the fact that the iPhone lacks the ability to sideload apps makes it more secure in that way than an Android phone. They did release that white paper, of course, backing up that standard. However, it's largely true. It's not like it's all snake oil. You should point out that a lot of the studies that they're pointing to about the malware situation in Android, its vectors and its sources, a lot of it, the data is like 4 or 5 years old.
So my mom bought a iPhone cleaner app that charged her $7 a week. It was approved by Apple. It was on the App Store. Apple took their 30% of the $7. If I hadn't had notifications on my emails set up on mine, I would never have known she bought that. That's
this way it could happen without Apple getting a cut, Leo.
Oh yeah, there you go. Oh, what was I thinking? There's scams. There's lots of scam apps on the App Store.
Lots of subscription scam apps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and plus people who are trying, nation states that are trying to get into the phone, they're not necessarily trying to get you to sideload apps. They have other ways of doing that involve just sending a text message that doesn't have to be read.
You can do what Google does, which is say, if you turn this on, your risk, blah, blah, blah. Google has a big announcement. They even turn it off now after you download whatever it is you wanted. Yeah. Most people, I would venture to say, I'd love to see the numbers, but I bet you very few people ever sideload anything on Android.
Yeah, that's why Epic sues.
Yeah. I mean, if it worked, Epic wouldn't need to worry about it, right?
Nope.
Yeah, they're referring to just very quickly. They're referring to a couple of scams where the person who's trying to infect the phone talks you into, oh, by the way, you're gonna here's how to walk you through the security settings you need to have in order to install this wonderful app we're going to give you for free. And that's
somebody named iPhone Cleaner talked my mom into thinking she needed a $7 a month program to clean iPhones.
Well, that exfiltrates cache. They're worried about exfiltrating data as well. So you've got there's multiple vectors for this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, you you have no idea how much danger you're in if you're sideloading. So sure, you can let people sideload. They're just idiots to do it, And so
maybe if I go to Adobe to sideload, I don't think I'm an idiot.
So this is the problem. You just pointed out exactly the problem, which is that if you set sideloading, allow sideloading on the iPhone, then the user is going to have choices taken away from them because companies like Adobe or someone else is going to say, I'm going to force everybody to sideload my application. You can't have my application as whether it's Fortnite or whatever, the user can't have that application if they don't have, right now the user who pays for everything, right? Remember, the user is the one writing the checks. So they have a stake in this, that what we paid for was a walled garden that is easy for us to use, and we are the ones paying for it. So the thing is that they are taking that away from us, where we suddenly have some apps that are sitting on the outside of that. Is when little apps are doing it, and it's fine. But when Fortnite or Adobe starts to do it, what happens is it puts that pressure for people to go ahead. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and download it, and then they're out in the out in the wind. And Apple, I think Apple is doing two things here. One is obviously they're going to try to make their case, but they're also putting stakes in the ground. When people, not if sideloads are created, there will be hacks that are utilizing that. And when they do it, Apple's putting very public stakes in the ground that they're going to use to burn politicians with. And so the thing is that, by saying all this stuff right now, what they're doing is, because the politicians, generally, when properly oriented, is oriented towards the consumer, to the customer. None of the customers are calling for this.
Why hasn't this happened on Android then, Alex? Why isn't it everything goes on Android?
Because there's no money on Android. there's no money. There's no money to make for apps on Android.
But Adobe doesn't force sideloading on Android. Adobe doesn't say, "Oh, yay, we don't have to pay 30%."
Because no one on Android pays for apps. So it's not a good market for that. And so the thing is that I think that. They obviously, what everyone wants is, the Android, atmosphere is not conducive. That's why people launch on the iPhone, and so everyone wants access to that. And the thing is, if they want access, then play inside the rules that were set up, 10 years ago. And if you don't like it, go
Android,
try to make it work on Android.
With the region locks, we had huge problems with that on Android Central. Whenever a game company region locked something, like when Pokemon Go would come out in Canada, not the US, or a few countries, there were so many sideloading schemes where people would just copy the APX file, put it up. I forget the extension. APK file. Sorry, the APK file. Put it up with malware, and people were getting hit left, right, and center.
That happened with Fortnite.
A unique problem.
That happened with Fortnite. There was a malware sideload with Fortnite.
My whole thing is that there's very few mainstream friendly operating systems. Very few. Most operating systems are really nerdy. That includes Mac OS. That includes Unix, Linux, Android, Windows, all of these things. There's iOS and Chrome OS, for mainstream people, for people who really just want convenient computing appliances. And it feels like we just don't want them to have it. We want to take it away from them and say, no, this has to be a computer too. It's like, I pay PC games. I'm offended that you want a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox. Therefore, I'm going to force your PlayStation 5 or Xbox to be a computer. You're like, no, I don't want a computer. I just really want to play my Nintendo Switch. Just let me play my Nintendo. I'm going to make that into a computer for you. And I think just let the market, if people were flooding to Android, Apple would be forced to change. I think right now there's like two categories of apps that you can't get on iOS that you can get on Android, but they're not in sufficient demand. Like game streaming services, which I think Apple is completely future blind about. They should be allowing those absolutely. That's a competitive advantage for Android right now. That and fake virus scanning apps, because that people think that they need those. So that whole category exists on Android and not on Apple. And I'd be super happy if that went away completely. But otherwise, it seems like it's hurting a lot of people rather than helping them.
I think it's hurting Apple to ramp up the rhetoric with this BS language. It's much like Congress saying, think of the kids, and
they're pandering to their
terrorists
audiences,
win. Apple says the terrorists win too. If sideloading is allowed, the terrorists win. I think it's a very big mistake for Apple to go that far down that road. Apple you can make your case about right to repair, and you can make your case about sideloading without using these overwrought.
The issue.
It's not like saying, we're going to sell a car without airbags. That's complete BS.
What they're doing is seeding the ground, so when it does happen, it's in people's heads.
I don't think so. I think they want these things not to pass. They're trying to keep these things.
Well, they don't want them to pass, but if they pass, they want to make sure people feel it.
Yeah, but I think that what we haven't talked about in the EU is that this law that they're talking about, it's very much up in the air. It is a bone of contention amongst the EU state. You think about how think about two countries in the EU who very, very much want the status quo because they're Luxembourg and Ireland, where countries where companies are hiding their profits from app stores. There are also a lot of factions inside. They're saying this law goes too far. They say this doesn't go far enough. There has been some speculation that it could take a couple of years for any sort of consensus to be reached. So the ball is very, very much in play. And if Apple plays this PR game very, very successfully and kind of arms their user base to say, hey, to have intelligent people like people on this panel saying that, hey, look, Tim is being a little bit overblown. He's being a little bit hysterical, but at the root, the first 5 seconds of what he said was absolutely right. If I wanted to have sideloading, I have the option of having excellent Android phones. I don't want sideloading, so I'm buying iPhone. So I think that's why this rhetoric is going in. And it's also happening at the same level at which they're pursuing every other rhetoric, such as saying that this is why we can't accept payments outside the App Store. This is why we have to charge money for if you buy a comic book, if you sell a comic book through an app that's conducted through the App Store. They have to defend their dogma to the end until they're forced to do something. And when they're forced to do something, they will do it. Before that, they will absolutely argue vehemently, passionately, and rabidly that this will cause the downfall of all mankind. The eighth seal will be broken. We will see rivers of blood, horses on fire running down the street. And do we want that? No, we don't. And this is why we must not pass this law.
Last week on Wednesday, the Commerce Department added the NSO Group, the Israeli company that provides malware to foreign nations so they can break into iPhones. They added them to their entity list for malicious cyber activities. Israel's very upset about this. The government of Israel considers the software a crucial element of its foreign policy. Really? And is lobbying Washington to remove them from the blacklist. NSO says, of course, that the software is intended merely to help countries combat organized crime and terrorism. Okay. It was just found, by the way, on 6 Palestinian activists' phones. So you can just add the list, to the journalists in Bahrain.
The receipts don't match the purchases, sadly.
Yeah. Apple, I'm sure, does everything they can to block NSO Group's software, but they seem not to be having much success at that every time they... The problem is unfortunately, you've got very, very, very talented hackers, security analysts who realize they can sell this for millions of dollars to NSO Group.
Very rich nation states that want it.
And NSO Group sells it along to rich nation states. And so, despite all of the companies like Zerodium are offering bonuses, and Apple itself, who offers bug bounties, these don't come close to the amount of money I'm sure the NSO Group offers through their proxies.
That said, Apple could be a little bit better at handing those things out. Remember that they had one of the 8 les scandales of 2021 was, "Hi, I reported this bug a while ago. You promised you were going to get to them and also credit me. You did neither, even though you said 3 times you were going to do that. What the hell?"
Boy, it would behoove them at this point, given you're competing with the NSO group, to do right by security
to do concierge level service.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Take one of our unsold $12,000 solid gold gadget watches. We still got 18 of them that we haven't been able to move.
Kanye just sent his back, so maybe 19. I don't know. No, I'm making that up. I don't know what Yi did with his watch. Apple's iOS 15.2 is out in beta 2. One of the things it adds is an ability to scan for nearby AirTags and Find My enabled items.
Yep.
There's some communications safety features.
This sounds like I'm actually impressed with that.
Is this the parental thing that they were going to roll out?
Yeah, but they made a major change to it. Like the biggest pushback against this is the communication stuff. It's not the CSAM scanning. This is the part that uses machine learning on device to identify nude or sexually inappropriate images for devices that have been enrolled in parental controls and are identified as belonging to a child. It can be set up so that it will alert you if it gets one of those images and you have to tap through to see it. It'll say this image contains nudity. You tap. It's going to say, "Are you sure you want to see it?"
Here, let me read again. Here, we've got the pictures. This is from 9 to 5 Mac. This is from iOS again, 15.2 in the beta 2. This photo could be sensitive. Now this is aimed at the kid, right? Are you sure you want to view naked photos and videos that show the private body parts that are usually covered by underwear or bathing suits? It's not your fault, but naked photos and videos can be used to hurt you. The person in this might not want it to be seen. It could have been shared without permission. Now do you want to see it? And then if you say yes, it's your choice, but... And by the way, it's got the monocle guy. The monocle guy.
We're very disappointed.
We're very disappointed. But make sure you feel safe. Don't share anything you don't want to. Talk to someone you trust if you feel pressured to view naked photos or videos. You're not alone. And you can always talk with someone who's trained to help. And then there's a button that says message a grown-up under don't view. Now, the grown-up will be notified if you view it, right?
No, so that's the big change because people previously complained that the previous system would allow a parent to force it to notify them if one of those images were received. And the concern was that it could out children or anyone who's non-hetero or anyone who has parents who are abusive otherwise.
No system that's looking for nude photos is perfect. And it could, and so there will be photos, false negatives, false positives, I should say.
Yes, but also like they could actually be nude photos, but that kid could have a very complicated relationship with their parents or their own sexuality, which is nobody's business.
Yes.
It's a very complicated issue. But now it no longer has that notification. Like you can no longer force a notification. The child can choose, to go get help if they want to, and Apple will provide help beyond just the family if the family is like a really big threat as well. But nothing is being exfiltrated from your device. No knowledge is being sent out of your device. And to me, that's not only are they listening, but they're understanding why it was a concern, which is not always the case.
Yeah.
I thought the original layout of this was going to be that that the privacy was going to be protected if the child is 13 or older, but they couldn't get around it if they were 12 or younger. Did they change the age limit?
No, now it's protected no matter what age you are.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that is very wise. That was one of the largest, as Rene says, you can't protect. Parents want to know everything, but not all parents are responsible enough to react well to everything, and that would have put children in danger.
Apple should not be in the business of making parents a police state. But there are third parties that provide those kinds of tools, I presume. Yes.
And parents can take the phone. I mean, like that. The parents, parents have control over their kids.
It's not Apple's job to do that.
Yes. Apple's not our parent.
Right.
Guess what? You're getting a flip phone. You'll still be able to text me to get a ride. You'll still be able to text me if you're in an emergency. You will not. You'll enjoy that 140 pixel by 120 pixel camera and no data plan. But that's what you're getting. Yeah.
We can get a hold of our kids as long as they're on at the school because they have Wi-Fi. But I don't give them.
That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have phones. They just don't have.
Do you worry though that they wander off and get lost or something? That now what are they going to do?
I just don't. I guess
911 works.
Yet. They haven't wandered. Yeah, they haven't wandered. Haven't wandered off yet. So.
Well, because at home they got all these incredible computers and VR hardware and editing.
The problem is you're talking to someone. I ran away for a weekend and came back, and my mom just asked if I had fed the horses that morning. So I was like, she didn't even miss me. She didn't even know I was gone. So
wait a minute, you had to feed horses?
We raised quarter horses, so there was.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So,
gosh, I thought I knew everything about you. You raised quarter horses.
Yeah, we raised race horses, and
wow,
and so anyway, so we had these. So I ran away. I was angry. I was like, I don't know, 12, and 12 years old. I ran away for the weekend. I went into the woods. I just went camping, ate a squirrel, and I built a lean-to. I was pretty
one of Andy's squirrels.
Pretty resourceful when I was a kid, and just lived off the land, and then came back on Sunday triumphant, waiting for everyone to be like totally in tears that I had been gone since Friday afternoon. And yeah, my mom just asked if I fed the horses. She did. I asked her later. I was like, "Did you do that just as a psychological psyops on me?" She goes, "I don't remember you running away."
Wow.
So I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and we have lots of cousins. So she just assumed I was at one of of cousin's house. Or
she had spares. Is that what she told you? Go find out.
Spares.
Go
ahead.
Maybe you'll come back.
Wow.
Extra bacon for the other kids.
Exactly.
Maybe you could tell Mom about this. iOS 15.2 Beta 2 lets your family access your data if you pass away from eating a bad squirrel.
It was good. It was just a
squirrel.
little chewy. The problem with the squirrel was a little chewy. It was, it was a little chewy.
But you need to braise it
before
you roast it. I think
I
that's
cooked
the key.
it. I should have.
Come on.
Well, he did throw a saucy Beaujolais into his backpack before he spread out. So the sauce wasn't as heavy as he'd like, but you know what? It's
squirrel au vin is one of the great delicacies.
I will admit that was the only thing I ate, and then I decided I'd just go back to the sea rats that I already had. I had a bunch of sea rations, and I was like, these are better.
Those are much better.
Stay away from hunting.
Meals ready to eat. Always a good choice.
Yeah.
This is the legacy
MREs.
contact feature that was, I think, rumored to be launched with iOS 15. They held off. It is going to be available in 15.2. It is available now in the beta 2. You can add a legacy contact. This is a good thing to do because you could get hit by a bus no matter what age you are. So.
Oh, that got so dark so quickly.
You know why?
Yeah,
I get
child
calls,
murdering an innocent animal. That was
on the
just
farm, Leo.
that wasn't dark. No, dead squirrel.
And the mother not really knowing or caring where he was. Oh, yeah.
I just took it where you started it. That's all.
That was good.
I'm just going on down that road.
My family, that's just good, clean fun.
I actually get calls on the radio show fairly frequently from survivors who say, I can't get into this device and I'd like to and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is, of course, after the person's passed, you can't get their permission. And there may, not everybody wants you rooting around in their phone. So this way you can, before you pass, add a legacy contact that can access and download data from your account after your death. The friends or family will have added you as your legacy contact. I don't know if they'll have to what hoops they'll have to jump through. John will be able to. John, whoever John is, I guess John is the guy. You're my legacy contact. John will be able to access the data stored in your account after your death. The data in your account may include photos, messages, notes, files, contacts, calendar events, apps you've downloaded, device backups, and your nude photos. John won't. No, I added that. John won't be able to access your iCloud keychain or any licensed media because DRM survives death. I just want everybody to know.
Yeah, your digital media can't be bequeathed or bequeathed.
Can't be bequeathed.
There's no concierge service to go through and delete all the embarrassing music on your playlist. They got like all those Raffi albums, all the NSYNC that you've been listening to on repeat.
Oh, my Britney Spears collection.
Actually, now that you mention it, I don't know if it's in the show notes, but Apple is a target of a class action suit on the buy button in the iTunes store and the Apple digital stores because of that exact same issue that we're bringing up. That you're not buying it because I can't leave this copy of Wonder Woman 1984 to my children, and I can't sell to anybody else, so therefore it's not buying something.
Yeah.
It's so much worse than that. It's so much worse than that.
Yeah.
You can't miss your credit card payments with the App Store. So if I lost my credit card. I lost my credit card that was attached to my App Store, and I wasn't paying attention and everything else, and it went out or whatever. And suddenly I couldn't watch any movies. Like you said, no, you can't watch it. Like it's
until you
not
pay
just
your
that
bill. Wow, they got you.
And you cannot.
They got you.
You cannot watch anything. So that is absurdly bad. Like it's certainly bad of Apple because it's like if I paid for that, I should be able to not buy anything new. I get that part, but turning off 500 plus movies because I didn't that I paid for that is not nice.
So I guess there's an access key that your legacy contact gets, but you'll also need to provide a death certificate for you to access that.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that. I was like, how do they know you're dead?
Yeah.
Like you could come up to the phone and say, no, he's dead.
Well, I hope you trust the coroner. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Any other features in 15? And does this mean 15.2 is imminent? Beta 2 is usually not quite to the end of the...
No.
So we got a few more to go.
It's when the new emojis start hitting that we know they're serious, Leo.
And there you go.
Emojis are here.
That's what drives the upgrades.
Yeah, no kidding.
People are simple. We overcomplicate it, but people are really simple at our hearts. We like our new emojis. That's what gets us to upgrade. It's none of your fancy features. It's not live text. It's new emojis.
The new poop emoji has a certain swagger that we just is so in tune with the post-COVID world, I think.
I'm waiting for the emojis
friend
to
who
go.
updates right away gets you the box. Like you get that box on social media and you don't know what that emoji is, and I can't have an emoji that I don't have, and then you upgrade immediately.
I'm waiting for the emojis to go into motion so that you can sit there and build animations with your emojis, and then you could.
We want USDZ emojis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Apple Watch used to have animated emojis, and they've kind of deprecated those over time. And then the Windows 11 ones that looked like they might be animated kind of ended up not.
Is this a new? I should have screen captured this. Is this a new feature that came with Monterey? I'm using a Memoji for my ID on when I log in, right? And it's animated, and it looks at you, and if you type your password wrong, it goes, and it
yeah, I'm very disappointed in you.
Is that new?
That's awesome.
Leo.
Instead of the I like it when it shakes the password, like
That was really good interaction, though. That was really good interaction design at the time because it told you exactly what was like.
Brilliant. Now your little Memoji, everybody should make their ID on their Apple account a Memoji. Mine has a little Mexican hat on it to celebrate, and it goes no.
It's trying to shake the head off, Leo. It's a little warm.
And it looks at you, and when you start typing, it looks down at your typing. It's all alive. Wow, I should have screen capped it.
It should look down and. It should look down, and as soon as you look up at it, it looks away.
Yeah, I think the animation part might be new, but I don't have a memo. I have to add that now. Memoji is like the slowest boiling the frog AR technology Apple's been investing in. It's like everyone's going to be so used to having a Memoji by the time we all have avatars. It's not going to even be a problem.
Let me see if anybody has. Somebody's got to have posted this, right? If they haven't, man,
my Memoji has locked me out of my Mac.
I guess this is a feature. Yeah, Memoji on login. This was one of the things that Apple announced when they announced Monterey. See, it is in there. One of the slides there. Memoji on login.
He's got a hat too. See, you're so on vogue, Leo.
Oh man,
your drip.
Play with it.
Micah would say your drip.
I'm telling you, play with it. It's so much fun. It does. It's very expressive.
I'm nonconformist. I never change my username. I never change my profile. Not for Halloween. Not for Christmas. Like I just. It'd be weird.
I want to see if I can play the frown. Yeah, here's Memoji on Mac lock screen. Let me see if this from Mac Observer. Let me see if they show what it looks like.
You have your back.
I don't know if they. Maybe not. Yeah. No, this is a big. Well, this is just.
How is this not all over TikTok?
Yeah, I don't. Oh yeah, there it's like that. This guy's name is Jeff Butts.
Yeah.
See, he's looking while you type, and if you type it wrong, what is? Oh. No, he looks so disappointed.
He's like,
it's like, remember the early GPS systems where if you missed a turn, it'd be like, oh no,
no,
You're like so disappointed in you.
Rerouting.
So I think this is one of the best features of Monterey.
I'm sorry that your happiness and your happiness and stability is so fragile that my mistyping, fat fingering a password will just devastate you like that. Let's not log in at all. Let's talk about you, Memoji.
Hangs his head. Oh. You remember, and I was very reluctant to show it, the schematics that were leaked from Apple's Quanta supplier. They were, it was the REvil gang that got it. Actually, by the way, now that I've got one of these, I'm looking at it, and the schematics were actually pretty right on. So I guess they were accurate, but we didn't want to show them because it seemed like it was ill-gotten gain. Well, the ill-gotten gain got because the REvil folks
REvil
are
robbled, and they did go down.
Allegedly being arrested. The DOJ announced one alleged member of the group has been arrested and charged in relationship with their attack against Kaseya, and then a Ukrainian national. And then I believe 6 more were arrested, affiliates. And it is thought that one of them is the person who released these Quanta designs. So don't mess with Apple, kids. They got their own security force, and they will hunt you down. Actually, I'm very glad they got these guys because ransomware has just gotten so out of control. REvil was absolutely the worst and was doing some real damage out there, and it looks like they're getting punished for it, which they ought to be. I hope it's I'm sure, again, allegedly.
This wasn't journalists working sources and breaking a story. This was criminals who were trying to hold the company's IP hostage.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then basically proving that they knew business, but they need to go away for a while.
Remember, we mentioned that Netflix was going to start doing games. They've launched their first selection of games on iPhone and iPad. You can sign up with an in-app purchase. I guess they're games at times.
I hate that they have to be separate games. It annoys Netflix is. They don't make Netflix put all the movies in iTunes. So why make them put all the games in the App Store? It just feels so.
That's how you have to do it. They've got Stranger Things, 1984, Stranger Things 3, Shooting Hoops, Card Blast, Teeter Up. I think there's a Squid Game mobile game coming. If there isn't, there ought to be.
And I know why they do it, but I hate when executives talk about it. We have to better exploit our IP. We have all these IP. How do we better exploit them? It just makes it feel like it's not at all about any creativity or audience,
Well, and
service.
the history of these, tie-in games is terrible. I mean, the worst game in all history was E.T. for the Atari. So
they're all buried in the desert.
You didn't like that game?
Yep. Amazing. I have a cartridge. Have you played it? I have a cartridge. You can play it in emulation. I gave one of my
that came out during my Pitfall times, my Pitfall Harry times.
Pitfall was a pretty good game. Now that was a game.
Pitfall.
Adventure.
Hey man, I was karateka 100% on the Apple II. I'm sorry.
Did they ever?
For me, on the Apple II, I went to Pitfall from the Apple II. The Aztec on the Apple II was.
There you go. I remember that.
That was my jam. Oh, man.
Guy English and I got to interview him, and Guy English and I got to interview Jordan Mechner, and he talked about how the Apple II couldn't handle simultaneous pixel movement and audio, so he had to split between every action, one for the audio, one for the screen, one for the audio, one for the screen.
Mechner went on to write Prince of Persia, which is another classic.
He invented the cutscene.
Yeah, but he invented the cutscene. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why there's so much oral history that needs to be written down about this sort of stuff.
I agree.
Partly because it's hard to explain exactly what a breakthrough karateka was, seeing that level of fluid animation in a game, as opposed to Wolfenstein at the time of Aztec. You got animation, so you could follow what's going on, and was pretty good. But it wasn't like, my God, how are they getting this fluid, lifelike sort of characters going through? And also, but the favorite thing was about it. It was a double-sided disc, but the game was really just on one side of it. But if you did boot it off the other side, it would play backwards.
That's pretty funny.
Well, the funny thing is, I was a friend of mine's a guy named Steve Wright, and he worked at Atari. And he was working on with one of the teams, and they put this little thing in that if you did this, if you pushed you went this way and then that way and then up, it would show you this little extra thing.
I love
in the game.
those Easter eggs.
And Atari went crazy. They were so upset.
Yeah,
they were so upset, and he had to go up to the executives and explain it. And he explained that he goes, it's something special that you could find, like an Easter egg. That was the first time it was used.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like an Easter egg, and that's how
Atari was famous because they didn't want to give credit to their programmers, knowing full well that it would cost them money in the long run if these people became famous. So that's why people put Easter eggs in at first, was just to give themselves credit.
That's also how Electronic Arts got launched. That they were basically saying we're going to produce packaging that looks like albums. We're going to credit all the authors, and that's how they got some of the best people.
Yeah. Boy, we could write that book ourselves, Rene. Let's just with our memories. So I'm browsing around on johnmoran.com. I'm thinking maybe I should buy a teakwood table, $900 or I don't know. They have some good stuff. A pair of Hans Jorgensen Wegener lounge chairs.
Wait for it.
For $47.50, not bad. And then I see this listing, number 2063, the Chaffee College Apple-1 personal computer. And by the way, with the original Byte Shop Koa wood case. We ain't just talking any old Apple-1. This has got a beautiful Koa wood case connected to a beautiful 1986 Panasonic video monitor, accompanied by a Xerox, a period Xerox copy of the Apple-1 basic manual and the Apple-1 operations guide, the original MOS 6502 programming manual, and not one but two Apple-1 software cassette tapes with period handwritten index card with memory locations so that you could load the software. Yeah. So you'd know where to load that in. Very important.
Smell the teak oil and wall sweat on it to this day.
I love that they've got the entire language of big time auctions. Like, plus it has the original blue Sprite 39D capacitors. Has not been restored. Has not been recapped.
The three original video power and cassette
Is it
interfaces.
below a crisp million still?
It sold for $400,000. What a deal!
Nice.
What a deal! Well, wait a minute.
You see, if only Steve Jobs and Wozniak had minted an NFT instead of making a computer, they would still have gotten royalties from the redistribution of this asset.
Yeah.
That whoever bought that, they're going to be kicking themselves. I understand Apple's working on an Apple II with Integer Basic built in.
Well, I didn't get that, but now I can apparently buy. I don't know. I don't know what this is. A spiral.
Oh my God! It's just a French drafting curve.
I think that's all this is. It's signed by Rita McBride. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's a work of art. It's a work of art. They're bidding on that right now. So
come, bring your preconceptions to it.
We should have, we blew it because they started this auction when we started the show for the Apple-1. It would have been kind of fun to watch that live.
I was asking someone about NFTs, and I was like, I don't understand that. This was a couple weeks ago, because now I do, because I was talking to them. They said, well, someone sold a banana peel for $163,000. It's not.
Yeah.
It's
art.
Value.
It's called
someone
art.
sold a JSON link. If someone sold a JSON link to an image of a banana that may or may not 404 when you follow it, but you have proof positive that you own the JSON.
Yeah, we're talking.
What was an image of a banana?
See, this is why it's so crazy that the fine arts community is saying, oh, but this isn't legitimate. This isn't like the artwork that you're talking about, Alex. It's like there's some guy at Basel. It was literally they took a banana and duct taped it to the wall. Yeah, and someone paid $164,000 for it. And later on they had to be explained, well, what is the artwork? So, well, you can at some point the banana is going to rot. The artwork is not the rotting peel. The artwork is here's how you source another banana, and here's how you tape it to a wall. It's basically the concept of duct taping a banana to a wall. Is this $163,000?
So I'm not going to mock NFTs.
Boy, did I get into the wrong business.
NFTs are going to be infrastructure of the Web 3.0 world, but right now it's just every hustler and 2-bit con job imaginable are all around them. And there was a great thread on Twitter earlier where someone is like, I got this picture of a monkey on the NFT for the picture of the monkey. And the guy's like, no, you got a token to that picture. He's like, what? It's like, yeah, you bought the token to that picture. There'll be a million pictures. And he's like, what do you mean? He goes, isn't your bio say NFT consultant? He's like, yeah. Don't you know about this? He goes, I thought I did.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to mock it. Kevin Rose owns a icon-sized picture of a zombie. And at last check, it was worth $400,000. He got it for a few hundred. So
the people with money who are in early are going to make a fortune, and people in 10 years holding those exact same tokens are going to be
it's beanie babies.
Not destitute, but they're not going to have any value. But like NFTs will be something that are involved in except that the underlying technology, that and blockchain, they'll be useful for other things that don't involve speculation on chimpanzee pixelated art. It's going to be super interesting.
Yeah. I think we should, on that high note, take a little time out. And I will... Oh, is this a catalog of Kevin Rose's NFTs? I believe it is.
I think Mark Frauenfelder learned how to do 3D modeling specifically so he could release them. Yeah, that was when NFTs were invented. There was like a proof of concept, like collectibles.
Yeah.
And some people were like, oh, yeah, great. Yeah, I just paid like $80 for pixel art. And then, oh, wow, it's worth how much? Oh, my God, what wallet did I store that token in? And did I reformat that hard drive?
Exactly.
Some people believe that the lack of scarcity on the internet is a problem that NFTs can solve. Other people believe that the lack of scarcity is a feature that no one really needs it to be solved. But there is no digital collectible market. So we'll see if why buy a bonsai you have to water and take care of when you can just buy a picture of a bonsai? Why buy a Pokemon card, that's worth, a holographic Charizard card for $500,000 when you can buy a JPEG of it or the JSON file that leads to a JPEG.
By the way, Alex, I can get the USDZ version of this if you would like.
See, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that a separate
You're going to have
purchase?
sculpture. It's the next generation of sculpture.
It might be. Actually, it might well be.
Well, the funny thing is, you could take a stone sculpture out of Zimbabwe. You could use object capture to turn it into a CG one, and you could probably sell it for the same amount of money as the stone one.
But who owns the copyright, Alex? The person who made the original stone garden, or the person who scanned it?
Well, I would keep it the same person. I keep the same person. I would do it as a service. Do it as a service to the artist who did the first one. Don't be a dork. That would be evil. Of course, someone will do it then because it's evil.
Yeah. Prepare, my friends, prepare your picks of the week. They're coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. Meanwhile, a tip of the hat to our sponsor, Udacity. Honestly, you could invest in NFTs, or you could actually get a skill that makes you marketable so that you can make a lot of money in the tech industry. That's what Udacity basically offers you, an online education program geared toward people looking to take their tech knowledge to the next level. Udacity specializes in exciting content that can take you farther in the career you want. And they offer the latest cutting-edge nanodegree programs you can't find anywhere else. Udacity is really all about encouraging your career growth, to give you the information you need about the career you want, to give you the skills for that career, and then help you get that job. And I have so many. In fact, if you go to the website, you'll see so many success stories. Quote, Udacity armed me with skills to develop models and give me an innovative experience with quick, high-quality recurring feedback. Aaron said Udacity's nanodegree programs and Career Resource Center played an integral part in helping me land a job offer from Google. The top 5 nanodegree programs right now: data engineering, product manager, data analyst, data scientist, and programming for data science with Python. If you're looking at, into the most cutting-edge technology careers, you can get nanodegree programs in things like AI. I would love to get a degree in flying car and autonomous flight engineer, intro to self-driving cars, machine learning engineer, robotic software engineer. These are cutting-edge careers with a real future. And these aren't just made up, because Udacity's courses are created with partners and industry leaders, companies like Microsoft and Google, IBM, AWS. The top team leads at these companies are your instructors. You're going to get the right knowledge from the experts who are actually working right now in that field. When you sign up for a nanodegree program with Udacity, courses are project-based. It's active learning. I think that's so important. You're going to test your knowledge every step of the way. And it's not impersonal. Homework and projects are reviewed by qualified professionals. You're going to get real human feedback, code reviews, just like you'll get when you get that job, with access to mentors 24/7. So you're never on your own. You can always get help. And flexible schedules, because, you may have a day job, but you can work at your own pace and your own schedule, whether it's 5 to 10 hours a week. You can graduate in as little as 3 months. If your team needs to master cutting-edge technologies, there's a great Udacity for Enterprise site, too. Data science, AI. Wouldn't you like your team to be experts in cybersecurity these days? Udacity for Enterprise can upskill your entire workforce with real-world, project-based learning. Check out the Enterprise section of Udacity's website today to learn more. Udacity. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. UDACITY. Udacity.com/twit. Actually, we got a great deal. Still on, but I don't know for how much longer. Take advantage of this now. Offer code TWIT75 gets you 75% off any program. That is quite a deal. But don't wait. It's a limited time offer. Udacity.com/twit. Don't forget that offer code TWIT75. Thank you, Udacity. I've taken courses there. I think it's great. I think you will too. And what a great way to get the skills you want for the job you want. Udacity.com/twit. Pick of the week time. Let's start at the top of the list. Alex Lindsay, what's your pick of the week?
First of all, I have a little breaking news that just showed up in Protocol. Unity, the competitor to Epic, it just bought Weta.
Weta is, of course, the company that did the special effects for The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Peter Jackson's Weta, $1.63 billion.
Yeah, they're not. So the visual effects doesn't come with it, I think, but all the technologies do. So all of their crowd and sims and everything else. When we talk about AR,
do they have a lot of good technology?
All the things that are coming.
Do they have a lot? Yeah.
Oh yeah, character technology. Massive, right? This is how you close the gap because Epic has been way ahead of them, in this area. So it's a really good move for them, and I'm sure it gives Weta a bunch of extra cash.
Yanko Reckers, writing at Protocol, says this acquisition is poised to transform Unity into one of the biggest players in visual effects for blockbuster films and accelerate Hollywood's transition to virtual production and real-time technology.
Yeah, so it's anyway, pretty exciting.
Wow.
Exciting times.
Wow. That's
so
kind of not what you would think of.
Oh, good.
You might think of Weta buying Unity, to be honest.
No, well, Unity is like 20 times bigger than Weta.
I guess so.
Like it's with all the AR stuff and the games and all the stuff that Unity does, with this kind of explosion, it's been a good time for them. I mean, it's why Apple can't buy them. It's because they're too expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. And I presume that Mr. Jackson will get a little bit of that billions of dollars.
Yeah, he probably. I think he's doing okay.
He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it.
But I'm sure that it was.
He's got a little hobbit hole somewhere in New Zealand. He's happy.
He's going to get another
another hobbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe get the whole town. Get the whole Shire. What is your pick?
So this is a pick. This is a project I worked on, and I wanted to show what we did. So this is the Clarity S Node, and what this is it's pretty cool. And I'll talk about why I'm showing it to you during Mac Break. So what this does is it's a air quality monitor, and when they used to be really big and take a long time to put out, these air quality.
So
monitors,
I have a purple in the house and a purple outside after the fire.
This is the industrial version.
So it's kind of like this.
This is the one that you only sell to municipal, organizations like this. So this is like purple, but on steroids. But what it does is it can provide real-time data. It's solar and cellular, so you just kind of put it on a lamppost and it starts to send data. So we built a video for them. But the thing that I wanted to show, because we were talking about this earlier, is this is a USDZ model. So you can see it here. So we see a lot of toys that have been put up there as USDZ models, but this is the real thing. This is why I get so excited about it is, I want to look at this product, and now I can really take a look at all of the little bits and pieces of it. Now, this was put together by Chris Fritchie. I'll show you another model he built just as another example of it.
They actually say on the website, using an Apple device, download an interactive 3D model.
So they actually took the 3D model that we built and put it on the website. So you can literally go to the website and download the product and put it right in front of you on your iPhone. And we made sure it works on the phone and everything else. And so it's and all of the product pictures that you see on their site, those are all created from the USDZ model. So instead of them having to go out and take photos and figure out, for a little company that's doing this, they're not little, but they don't want to have to go out and hire a photographer and do a photo shoot, and then they're only stuck with the shots that they paid someone a lot of money to do. For them, they're able to just move the object around and take another photo.
Right.
And just move it here. Okay, we want to take a photo here. We want to take a photo here.
All the product shots, I think, on the site are from your model.
No. Yeah, all of the product shots are from that model.
Yeah.
So they're able to create those, and they'll be able to keep on creating them at will. When
That's
they,
so cool.
And so, but this is I think that Apple doesn't sell it. Maybe they're not trying yet, but they're not showing you this, which is you can really get, high quality, really high quality 3D models that you can pop open with your phone, that you can use inside. This is what I'm showing this to you, by the way. I'm rotating this in preview. This is just Apple preview.
Oh, that's cool. I love that.
So I'm literally rotating there, and I animated all of the things for their video inside of Motion. So I took this object and just rotated, just did all the animations inside of Motion as a for the actual, for the video. So, I mean, this is why I get excited about it. And I think I'm more excited about it because of this project. Now, Chris, this is how office hours works. So we showed a little bit of this and we talked about it for like an hour, a little while ago. And then, Keenan Campbell, who manages emergency response in Illinois, he wanted to use it for training, and so here is something that they're working on right now. So this, again, I opened this in preview, right? And so this is not, and this one's a little too big right now to go into a phone, so you can't really use this as AR, but as a real-time 3D. Scene here, so Chris Fritchie brought it, he actually reverse engineered it from the actual photos that Keenan sent him. But anyway, so but when you think about doing training, before this was really hard. Like, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, 30 years. And the idea that I can, in real time, just move this around in preview with the textures and lighting and everything else is why I get excited about it. And imagine, again, you want to talk about this, you want to put it you can rotate it around to the place that you want it, render it out, put it into Keynote. But someday we're going to be able to, I think, that we're going to be able to put this just into Keynote. And, we can, so this, these are, between these two, and again, this one is just something, it's still a work in progress. This one, you can actually, if you're watching, you can go to Clarity's website and download it and just put it on a desk in front of you, and it looks, it looks like the real thing. Like I tweeted out a picture last week of it sitting next to itself, like the AR version sitting next to itself. And it's, that's the kind of, that's what's possible now. And I think that that's why folks like me get so excited about what, what's possible, is because here's the, by the way, this is the, we put it, so
that's amazing.
Here's the model,
which is
real.
That's
the real thing.
Yeah.
So we just, and that's actually a screen capture from my phone of that photo. And so I'm actually calling Henry's house. That's our counter. So anyway, but that is, but the two of them are right next to each other, and I don't think that that's what people see right now. When they see the little toys that Apple's been putting up, that are there, when you really start to push the outer envelope. And the reality is right now it's hard to build these, so we had to figure it out, which took a little bit of time, but now it's easy. Nice. so anyway, I would, if you want to see, like, again, when you think about companies using these as product shots and so on and so forth, I would go up to their website and check it out and download it. It's free. You can just download it off their website and throw it in front of you, and you can. But I think that's why I get excited about USDZ, is because of doing those kinds of models.
Andy and Akko, your pick of the week. Oh, you're muted. Is that us? Is that him? We don't know.
Nope, that's me.
Okay.
I had my heart broken a while ago because I wanted to play Tetris. I wanted to have it on my phone. I decided that Tetris is definitely something my phone is capable of doing, and was stymied by the fact that it is impossible to simply download and play Tetris on your phone. But
really?
You're ridiculous. You're being ridiculous, Andy.
It is ridiculous. You're so right. It is such a horrible thing. Like, all I want is to play the old Tetris. I don't want to play some crazy new fangled version that I have to play Tetris with friends.
Right. There are only three options for you. You can actually get the official Tetris, which is free, wonderful, but you have to watch like a long ad when you start, long ads when you clear different levels. There are versions, like Alex said, where no, it's 3D turbo network Tetris on the blockchain. Like, no, I just want Tetris. I want to hear that Russian music. Or you can get a knockoff that is certainly it's as simple as you want, but it probably also is like loaded with even more obtrusive ads. So I found a solution, and believe it or not, the solution to be able to play Tetris on mobile is buying a $20 like Tetris it's called a micro arcade, and it is like the exactly Tetris on this tiny little rechargeable device, and it plays exactly the way that you want it to play. Unfortunately you only get the music like for the first like round.
Oh, there it is.
But it is your basic classic Tetris. It's in color. The screen is tiny, but Tetris is not a really visually complicated game. All you got to do is like rotate blocks and drop them down. It works great. It gives me that kind of like calm sort of meditative flow that I'm used to with Tetris, and no ads. I own it. It lasts almost. I kind of like the fact that I can actually play it like for hours and hours and hours on battery without bringing down like my phone battery or like being interrupted with like pop-ups or notifications or anything like that. I like it so much that they actually have a whole line of these things for like classic games. They have Dig Dug. This is Pac-Man.
Oh, you bought a bunch of them. Oh, that's
and it is the exact, it is the exact like arcade. I don't know if they're running the exact arcade ROMs, but it has the attract screen. Now this one is kind of a challenge to play on this tiny little screen, but you do
Frogger.
Yeah, but the other cool thing for nerds is that now, of course, they make, as Alex said, they make a whole different line of these things. And as you can imagine, it costs a lot of money to like make different SKUs for every single one or different boards for every single one. So there's actually a hack. There are instructions online that if you short a couple of jumpers on the board, you can turn like the Tetris one into like the Galaxian one.
No,
there are actually 3 games on some of them, and you can actually put a little ABC switch. Obviously, if I were just interested in playing the games, I would just like buy the game itself. But it's kind of fun that you can actually hack these things. There's an Oregon Trail version of this. All I'm saying is that I love it. It's simple. It's easy to just toss in your pocket. Again, for that little bit of distraction you need, you just want that meditative playing an old game. But isn't it a sad commentary that the only way to get the classic, we were talking about like classic Apple II games, I give you money for the game, you sell me the game, I own the game, it is the classic game, I don't have to watch any ads or any other kind of mess. I have to actually buy like a special little like gamepad sort of thing. It's lovely. I love it. They're only like $20 each, and some of them have more than one game on it. They have one version that has just like a whole bunch of classic like Atari 2600 games on it. I believe I will own probably. I did order the Dig Dug version is on the way because I think that will also translate very, very well. Yeah, there's some, I don't know if it's nostalgia or just the idea that I associate that with peace, meditation. There's no pressure. I don't have to get emotionally connected to these really beautifully animated 120 frames per second HDR 4K characters. It's the Pac-Man dude is just a Pac-Man dude. If he dies, he dies. He's just a cartoon character. I don't have any emotional connection to them, nor have I spent but I just spent like 4 weeks leveling this character up, and now he got blown up in a powder keg explosion. That stinks. So definitely for dads, grads makes a lovely stocking stuffer, I would say, if I were not beneath like doing holiday gift guides.
I can't decide whether I could play Asteroids on it or not. Like, is it too small to play Asteroids?
That would be one of the last ones I'd buy.
Ironically, the original resolution. But it's just it's very small.
But it's a lot. Even Pac-Man is like you're playing based on faith a lot.
Yeah, look at that.
But still,
that is the
$20,
original Asteroids. That is it. Yep. I played that game, that Vector Graphics game. Wow. Superimpulse.com, the micro arcade brand for if you want to. Oh, look, they also has little tiny versions of other games. This is for people who are really like got small fingers, I guess.
There's another company that's not on that sheet. They're actually making scaled down version of the actual arcade cabinets.
Yes,
that's like they're kind of like G.I.
I think that's
Joe
it. Tiny
size.
Arcade. This is the same site. Super Impulse. You mean like these?
No, they're even better. I'll try to find it for you by the end of the show. But they're amazing because they are the original. They are the original ROMs. Every control that you would have on the arcade, they're built to scale. Again, they're not like scaled proportions so that they make it very, very easy to play on a countertop. Do you remember like the classic like brown like change machine that you get that you can find in arcade?
Oh,
they have a version of that. They have a version of that.
That was a Lori Gill pick. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And actually,
yes.
Yes.
It's actually a charger. It's a phone charger.
Oh my God. There is a big market for nostalgic nerds, obviously.
Well, we're sick of having to sit through ads. We just want to play Dragon Slayer, for God's sake.
All right, as long as we're talking nostalgia, I'm going to mention Roberto. He's in our chat room right now. Throwboy. We've talked about his stuff before. He's got a new Kickstarter. This is the Iconic Pillow Collection 2, and if you're a Mac lover, you will love this. Throwboy always does these great. We have many Throwboy pillows. Now you can get a cheese grater Mac. You can get a Lisa. You can get the color Mac laptops. There's Roberto. He does these himself. He's really kind of a neat guy. He's already they posted it and already got to the full commitment. But I think you might want to get in there. There's 17 days left. Kickstarter. Just search for Iconic Pillow Collection 2. And what's that?
That's showing you what all of Apple's next designs are going to look like. That's the new MacBook Air there on the left. And,
he doesn't, of course, he can't say any trademark. There's no apples on them. But that's the 1983 pillow, the 1999 pillow. The Cube is the 2000 pillow. The iconic lamp iMac 2002, and then the cheese grater 2003. That'd be fun to sit on, Elisa.
Pillows with personality.
Nice job, Roberto. Good job. Your pick of the week, Mr. Rene Ritchie.
So my pick of the week is hashtag, let's do the air hashtag Team C's, which is a creator initiative. It's organized by Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast, and Mark Rober, former NASA and Apple engineer. And it's designed to sort of raise awareness, but also raise funding for getting trash out of the ocean. And they like to keep things simple. So last time it was $1 for one tree planted. And this time it's $1 for 1 pound of trash being taken out of the oceans and the rivers. And I got to be involved in some of the early discussions about this, and I got to hear how they're doing it. And they really went above and beyond to make sure all the money is going exactly where it's supposed to be. It's audited. It's like they got the UN involved. It's a tremendous undertaking. And they got hundreds, thousands of creators to all post videos on this all at the same time, sort of get things going. Ended up on Jimmy Kimmel talking about it, which was really neat to see, the YouTube taking over a little bit of traditional media. But it got to 10 million. They want to raise 30 million to get 30 million pounds of trash out of our water systems. And we got up to 10 million really quickly. Now we're working our way towards 15 million. We're at 13 million, says there 13,891,000 already. But, every dollar helps. Every little bit helps. Every just sharing it helps with people. If you don't have any money to devote to this right now, just sharing, helping with the awareness is fantastic. I put up a video about it, like I said, where I talk about Apple's initiatives in reducing plastic, like the iPhone 13, the antenna bands are made out of upcycled plastic bottles, and they've been replacing plastic product wraps with paper, ethically sourced paper product wraps. And Jimmy, Mr. Beast, was kind enough to do the intro to my video. So it's fun just seeing him sort of scrutinize me, demand to know what Apple's doing to help reduce plastics in the ocean. So it's a terrific project. It's great to see all the creators involved. And it's a really, really good cause because it's devastating to marine life, but also to human life. So the more we can do, the better. And it's just hashtag Team C's on social or teamcs.org on the web.
Nice. Or see Renee's video at youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. And you can watch Mr. Beast on the beach. Yes. Very nice. Very nice. I'm glad you ended on a high note. That's good. Oh. Thank you, Rene. We do Mac. Thank you, all three of you. youtube.com/Rene Ritchie. That's Renee's site. Lots of good videos. That new video talking with the chip designers is a must-watch. Yeah, I'll be watching that the minute I get home. His review of the M1 Max. He got his all the way in Canada. I don't know how. I'm so happy for you. Quad major leak reactions. But I think the Silicon VP interview, that's going to be the one I definitely
Yeah, Tim
wanna
Millett,
watch.
who's vice president of platform technologies, which just means he runs Apple Silicon. He's been there since the original iPhone, the very first iPhone. So he's been leading Apple's chipset technology since then. And Tom Boger, vice president of Mac and iPad marketing, who's literally been there almost 3 decades now. And the thing that I liked the most was you could hear the passion in their voice for the Macs, because people still have lingering questions about that. But once you watch this video, the amount that I need someone to look at me the way Tom looks at the Mac, and then my life would be fulfilled.
Nice. Nice. It's nice to know the Mac still gets some love.
Yeah.
YouTube.com/Rene Ritchie. Andy, when are you going to be on WGBH next?
Friday at 12:30. You can watch it, listen to it live or later at WGBHnews.org.
Very nice. And I hope you'll explain Zeno's paradox this Thursday. It'll be fascinating. Fascinating.
I can only come halfway towards the explanation.
Oh, a little geek joke in there.
Zing.
Zing.
Not XKCD, but okay.
And, of course, Alex Lindsay, officehours.global. What's the latest at Office Hours?
We spent an hour today talking about gain staging, which was really good. Ant even liked it. He tweeted.
I saw Ant's tweet.
Yeah, so we just like an hour of really, really smart audio folks just talking about gain staging. Tomorrow.
What is gain staging? Do I have to watch the video to find out?
When you've got a bunch of audio devices in a chain, so you've got your mic going into a preamp, and then it goes to a mixer, then it goes to something else. You got to get all those gains the same, or you're going to end up with distortion and everything else. One's too low or the other one's too high. So how do you organize those, and why is that important? And so we had that discussion.
I probably
tomorrow
could use that.
Tomorrow I figured we were working in a labs. After hours we have these labs where we all just kind of get together for an hour and learn something together. And so we figured out last week how to build a AV sync, to get audio and video to sync up, how to calculate that with just colors on a screen in audio. But we built a nodal structure inside of Isadora to figure that out. So it'll just watch it and say, oh, you're 163 milliseconds off. And that costs like $10,000 normally. So we figured out how to do it. We're on NPR today. On Here and Now.
Oh, nice.
If you do I think I tweeted it out, but if you do it, it's called the Belfast Method. It's one of the things that the folks are doing. So they just did a story about it in NPR, and then we're making savory pancakes this Saturday with Damayanti Gajar. And so we had spicy eggs, scrambled eggs last week. And I've had them every day since, because now I'm good at it. I've gotten good at it. I'm like, oh, I like this, I like that. And so, but what you really get to see is also us experimenting with this idea that we could learn together. The cooking is just just one context. I mean, this could be anything, wood turning or working on cars or whatever. And so you could, so we're experimenting with what do you need to do to make that actually work, because it's much harder than making a TV show, because it actually has to work for everyone. So we're experimenting with that on Saturdays.
You may have mentioned this last week, but there was a great article about you in PC Magazine, John Kalish. Yeah, really good, really good.
He did such a great job. This is actually a great overview.
Nice picture of you. Look at that, big picture.
My sister took that. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. So he did a really, really great job of, he interviewed a ton of people throughout the, he talked to me for a little while, and then, you just forget what, I'm so used to someone just calls me, asks me a couple questions, then writes a big article, and you forget there's people out there that will spend.
John's great. Yeah.
He spent a month and a half or 2 months working on that article, interviewing people all over Office Hours, and then coming up with that article. And it's good.
He is really good, and glad to see you getting the coverage you deserve for Office Hours. Find out more at officehours.global. We do Mac Break Weekly every Tuesday. Thank you. Who did the show last week? Did Micah host it last week? Thank you, Micah,
you did a great job.
For hosting. I really appreciate it. I am back, though, and you can watch us do the show, as always, on our live stream, which is live.twit.tv. You could choose audio or video. If you're watching live, you might want to chat with us live at irc.twit.tv or in our Discord. You know, the Discord is a great place to hang out morning, noon, and night. The home of the animated GIF, apparently. We have Discord channels for every show, plus all the geeky topics you might be interested in. And if you would like ad-free versions of all of our shows, access to the Discord server, and a special Twit Plus feed with content that you don't get in the podcasts, $7 a month. It's a good deal. It supports us. We really appreciate it. All you have to do is go to twit.tv/clubtwit for more information. You can also buy individual shows ad-free on iTunes. The audio versions of shows are available for $2.99 a month. So if you just want one show, that might be the more economical way to do it. Although I happen to like the Discord channel. I think it's worth $7 all by itself. You can also get shows on demand from us at twit.tv, in this case, twit.tv/MBW. Every show has its own YouTube channel, so you can watch there if you want. Probably the easiest thing to do is get a podcast player and subscribe. And if your podcast client happens to offer reviews, please leave us a 5-star review. Let the world know about Mac Break Weekly. That's it for this show. Thank you for joining us. Now, I'm sad to say it's time to get back to work because break time is over.
Do you have an iPhone, an Apple Watch, an iPad, or any number of Apple devices? Well, you have got to check out iOS Today with me, Micah Sargent, and Rosemary Orchard. We cover all things iOS and help you get the most out of your devices.